Hey, this is Zepp, and on behalf of the guys, Stru, Boomer, and Lukey, we want to thank you for downloading and listening to our podcast of The Ticket Outdoors, brought to you by Mills Fleet Farm. And remember, when nothing's going right, just go fishing.
Load up the lumber at Mills Fleet Farm. ProWood treated lumber, preferred by contractors, is on sale. Rejuvenate and protect your driveway with Jetcoat Premium Driveway Filler and Sealer, $14.99 a pail. Get power and speed with the DeWalt 18-volt Bear cordless grease gun, on sale, $118.99. The 3M Tech WorkTunes hearing protector is $29.99. And all Dickies denim is on sale at Mills Fleet Farm.
It's time for Ticket Outdoors on Sports Radio 105, The Ticket.
There's Boom and Stru over there. They're having a dance right now. I didn't know you guys knew how to jitterbug. That's pretty good.
Am I filtered? I can volume down.
I told you last week I'd really love to learn how to Lindy. My gorgeous wife is listening right now, I'm sure, but I think it'd really be cool to learn how to Lindy. You watch people dance. I think it's an art.
The Lindy, that goes back like before your dad was born. That's like 20s, right?
Well, what do you call it? The swing? I don't know
where they kick their feet around. I mean, we just called everything a jitterbug. If you held hands and swung the girl around, then you were jitterbug.
Stru was quite the ladies' man. You remember the high school dances? All the boys were on one side, girls on the other.
No, not Stru. Yeah.
No, Stru.
He was dashing for me. The girls were lined up on one side, but
over there.
They called that the Struzinski line. When
all the girls thought I was not very harmful, but they always came to me because they
thought you were the innocent one, right?
Speaking about that, did you guys? How about the guy who? How does it start? Hang on a second. The guy who had. He got his eye knocked out when he was about 9 years old, and everybody teased him because back then in the 30s and 40s they didn't know how to fix eyeballs, and so they gave him a wooden eye. Remember this one?
No.
Have you heard this story?
No, I have not.
And he had no self-esteem. Hey, Mark, get the laugh button, will you? He's coming into the studio now. But this poor young man had no self-esteem. Everyone picked him up. They called him Wood Eye. It's hard. Yeah. So they finally convinced him to go to the high school dance when he was a junior, and he's sitting by himself over there, and they said, come on, go over and check out this girl here. Check her out. She's all by herself. And, she's just got braces and whatnot, yeah. But he finally has confidence to walk across the room, and he said, excuse me, will you dance with me? And she says, oh, would I? He says, screw you, buck teeth.
What the hell is going on here? I'm in Devil's Lake for a week, and then we just got all high tech.
As a sound effects guy, I find your phone offensive. It sounds like teeth chattering. I think that's supposed to be a drum roll or something.
Anyway, I apologize. You're the Ticket Outdoors radio show. This is hunting and fishing, and I just had a lot of fun about that. Welcome to the Ticket Outdoors. Zepp, how are you? How was your week, buddy?
I'm doing well. I feel like there's so much news out there that I read over the weekend. I've retained none of it, and I didn't print any of it out. Still trying to catch some black crappies on Spring Lake, and all I can catch walleye in that lake, but that's all I can catch. Smallies, but yeah, I didn't get my crappies. You said they're done spawning now, so what? I don't get any crappies?
Yeah, well, you can still get the crappies, but when it's about net, I got a little echo.
There you go. You better
echo. Sound test. And, about mid-60s is the temperature. I'm still feeling a little
it couldn't have been
here.
last week, and it couldn't have been that warm yet. Maybe after this week in a couple of 80s. Are you getting some echo in your headphones?
I am, but are you getting an echo in yours?
No.
No, that's
just in your head, man.
My issue, right?
Yeah,
I got a complex.
You're back in studio now. That's from being out catching big fish. All the pictures they took of you.
Yeah,
you're a runway model now, aren't you? Yeah, I told you there's a fine line between sharing a moment with your friends and being braggadocious. And I felt like you crossed that line. I kind
of felt like the guy after high school prom. You're pretty excited that night, calling all your buddies because you enjoyed the dance.
I never did that.
No kiss and tell for you?
I kept it to myself out of respect for the women.
True.
Absolutely.
No, you know what, though, on a serious note.
Although my wife and I, we did make love sober this weekend, which is really unusual. Did you ever do that?
No, I try not to make I don't get to know women that long.
That's strange, man. It felt funny.
Where we get to the sober stage.
Yeah.
No, I haven't.
You're a thief in the night, aren't you, Zep?
Something
Gone.
like that. I don't know.
2 ships. No, mid-60s is the water surface temp that crappies are typically spawning.
So it's too early.
Well, you know, some of those lakes, I think they might even be past that, though. Those smaller lakes, and if you're fishing in a bay where you've got shallow water depth and you've got a rocky bottom that's holding some heat, especially darker colors, you could be past that. Now, did you catch any crappies?
No, I didn't catch any. I haven't been onto them, but I've been, fishing from the shore. But that's what you catch, your panties from the shore. But
panties?
Yeah, your panties.
Yeah,
I didn't put a T in there.
So
look what you've done, Shrew. Now we'll never get them out of the gutters.
I'm sorry.
So if you catch crappies,
Yeah.
okay, and they're darker in color,
Right.
that's a good sign that they're in their mojo season. But so if you do happen to catch some and they're probably more plain in color, they could be out of spawn. But if you do catch a couple and they're that black, that beautiful black color, you still know they're spawning.
Well, I'll work my way around the lake. I might have to do a little trespassing, but I seem like a friendly guy. That's why you always bring enough beer.
Yeah, you can borrow my boat.
Yeah, well.
Brand new 1975 Sea Sprite boat, deck boat.
It is a beauty. This guy apparently put a lot of work into it. It's one of these, Drew, it's a great story that you told me because it's one of these that you hope to find, not the one that's been sitting in the barn, but the guy did everything to it last year, right down to reupholstering it, and then got some gig and he couldn't take the boat along.
Yeah, I took a job transfer.
I really think, Stu, on the back of that boat, I mean, I wanted to do it to the T-Pro, the Lumacraft, but I think on the back of your boat it should say, "It's your money, mother beeper." What do you think, buddy?
That's not bad, but I love boat names. I mean, we've heard them all, but the one the Office. Honey, where are you going to? I'm going to the Office today.
How about Gorgeous Diana?
Well, that's just...
You could get some kudos for that one.
I bet I could.
Big shooter.
Yeah. I've got we have a pontoon in Chautauqua, Wisconsin. We have a lake place over there, and it's not a lake place. It's not the Taj Mahal by any means. But we finally bought a pontoon about 11 years ago, almost 11 years ago. Yep. And my first granddaughter's name was Allie, so I named it Alley Oops. Now, do you remember that term, Alley Oops, when you were a kid?
Of course. I don't know the origin of it, but I know Alley Oops, and...
all right, let me ask you this.
And clever.
Thank you very much. I went to Hamilton. Hey, that's why I'm doing this show, right? Let me ask you this. Talking about origins, where did the term "one fell swoop" come from?
I have no idea.
We heard it all the time. We're going to do it all in one fell swoop. What the hell does that mean? I bet Vaughn knows that.
Well, I suppose if you just take a, swoop.
Is my dad out flirting there with the interns
again? He couldn't get out of that chair
Jesus.
they had him in. That thing
Popped
was like
him a Viagra, and there he goes.
Like a beanbag chair.
Somebody text in and say, where did the term "one fell swoop" come from?
What is it?
It just means getting it all done at the same time. It has something to do with World War II or back. I don't know what it means, but I don't know. But we're going to find out.
You can't bring it up and then not know.
Diana,
no closure.
Diana, Google it and get back to me.
Well, you have a phone.
Text me.
I could do that.
She texts me all the time. Do you know that? Constantly.
Now, we know what you did, pal. You were at Devil's Lake catching a whole bunch of fish. And like Zepp was saying last week, we were on the air, and Boom was calling in. And it got to the point where, like Zepp said, it's a fine line between being so excited and then all of a sudden bragging about where the hell he was and what he was doing. But good for you, doing very, very well.
I just want to thank, again, the Devil's Lake community out there, the tourism folks, the guides, everyone that put that media event together. It was really quite an event. And I tell you what I love about this sport and this journey I've been on is you learn every day. And you learned a lot about photography. You learned a lot about film. I mean, Steve Panaz was out there from Sportsman's Channel and Lake Commandos. Brian Brosdale, Bro, we teased him about. Big Bro was there. And just a Hall of Fame writers, media folks. And just some tricks of the trade that you learned. And, guys, we were really blessed. I mean, we had some rough weather. Sunday night, it was white knuckle syndrome driving to Devil's Lake. It took me a lot longer than I liked and wanted to take it easy with the Alumacraft in the back of the truck.
Now, when you're talking about the white knuckle thing and the weather was changing, were you concerned, like, here we go again?
Oh, you know what? I think I called Luke and I said, holy deep. Here we go again, another road trip. And this one had a lot of press on the line and visibility, and I was like, the bite's going to be tough. But you know what? We worked really hard. I can tell you, those fishing pictures that you saw, a couple of those days, guys, I put 20 miles a day on the Alumacraft.
Yeah.
I mean, it was pressure fishing.
The pics started coming in late in the trip. I mean, I wouldn't say it was morning one and you were firing off, but when they started coming, it was one after another.
Yeah.
And you guys just hit it. And a lot of people, you get to go out for a day or you go out for a weekend. I really envy you when you get to really get after it that long and you got a 2 or 3 day trip where you can just keep plugging away because you're eliminating spots, you're waiting on weather. And sooner or later, you're going to hit it, right?
Right. And, one of the things we're going to talk about the Lake Report tonight, and we're going to get to Griffith, is sometimes I think in fishing and in hunting and in life in general, we seem to overcomplicate things. And at first, we were struggling a little bit, Zepp, and then it was about getting back to the fundamentals and just kind of do what's in your gut on what you know to do. Looking for fish that are deeper during the day, hitting the shallows in the morning, the wind blowing areas, the presentation, because, I've been fishing a few times here lately, and I think we can all have that habit that if we don't catch fish right away, we start to overanalyze ourselves. And so basically just getting back to the fundamentals is what I'll talk about on the Lake Report, really helps kind of dial it back in and catch those fish.
I can just picture Zepp and I fishing, and if we're not catching the fish right away, we're just going to start telling dirty jokes and laughing. I'm not going to analyze. Are you going to analyze?
I'll throw a bobber on, and we'll just troll around.
But we need you, pal. I'm telling you, we need you. Honest to God, because without you, this show is nothing, and without you, my fishing career is nothing. So stick around. Don't dump me yet, okay?
Gotcha, brother.
All right.
Yeah, no, and that's a good point. I mean, I walked in, I was complaining about not catching some panfish, and he said, "What was the water temperature?" I don't know. I forgot to stick my toe in.
Yeah.
I didn't bring that along.
You didn't take a drink of the water?
Yeah.
Tackle by no, I didn't take a drink of the water, but it's getting to be about that time of the year with some warm weather now. I might wade in and do a little fishing, hang my feet off the dock, or find a friend with a boat.
Yeah.
I'm surrounded by them.
Strewman's got a brand new sea Sprite or something, so you can use it anytime you like. Hey, I fished
and
a
I
little
want to
bit.
thank our sponsor, Alumacraft, for being the official boat of Ticket
I don't know what a
Outdoors.
sea Sprite is. It could be could be an ocean drink or something.
No, I think a sea Sprite was one of those back in fishing or naval folklore.
Sounds like a mermaid name.
Yeah, one of those things. I think they messed with you. I don't think you wanted to run into a sea Sprite.
I think it's the same boat that Laurel and Hardy was doing when they were down eating spaghetti made out of string. Remember that show?
The Laurel and Hardy reference.
Yeah. Everyone knows that.
So,
right?
Zepp, now you did some fishing this weekend, right?
Yeah.
What else? Did you take the bike for a ride?
No, we just didn't have the weather for it down here. In fact, the fishing did not last a long time. And that's one of the things we talked about. I think if I had stuck with it, but it was raining out there, and I just felt a little fair weather this weekend and wasn't, we weren't out in the boat. We weren't on a fishing trip. I didn't have that commitment. I had other things I could do. So I just screwed around for a little bit till the rain clouds rolled in and started to rain. I got out of there. So it wasn't much of an outdoor weekend, as you guys know. I think Sunday night we ended up or was it Memorial night? We ended up finally getting some nice weather.
I do have something for our listeners. If you want to learn how to get kicked out of sea life at Mall of America, have Sophie and I there in the Sea Ray, and we're petting it. And I look at Sophie and I'm like, "Hey, what size hook do you think?" She's like, "Dad, do you think you could get one of those on a leech?" And literally the guy doing the announcing just stopped and about had a heart attack, and PETA surrounded our ass and about hauled us up. I was like, "I'm just kidding."
But seriously.
Chill, buddy. All right?
Hey, I think it was on Sunday, Dinah and I. We spent a couple of days at the cabin, and it rained, like you said. Not a whole lot was happening. Went fishing a little bit. Didn't do real well, but had a good time. Took
you
a
got
ride
a new
around the
Zepco ride, too.
Zepco 33 I had. They said that. I'm moving up.
Sexy.
But it was raining, and it must have been Sunday, so we took a ride. Someone said, "My lovely wife loves flowers and gardens. She's really, really, really good at it." So they says, "Go see this greenhouse, this lady up here in, I'm not even sure the name of the town, northeast of us a while." So we go up because you get really good prices. We drove 90 miles round trip to save about $4 in plants,
Sure.
But
it's
while
the
we're there,
journey.
but she saved some money. It's like, but she saved some money. But as we're driving around, we saw an old solid rock building that turned out to be a bar from the 1930s. Looked like an Al Capone thing from the 1930s. We just stopped and had a beer, and they had some really cool old signs in there. One of the signs was something like, it said, "Alcoholism is a disease. Get your shots here." Have you seen the one?
No.
And the other one is,
but I'm using it.
another one was, having sex in a canoe is like drinking light beer, damn near water. I thought it was funny, so I like stopping in improvisation things and just stopping by the little.
We had Alyssa
like
Ebel from ExploreMinnesota.com on. Yeah, right. And she was, and that's one of the things we talked about, going on that website and finding just odd little hidden gems. And that website is really pretty good about just taking you into a town that might have just, a weird old bar like that,
cool.
or an old antique barn or something like that. You can go rummaging around in and find some of that stuff.
A double EJ Brandy on the rocks was $3.
Ooh, I like it. Well, you talked about our sponsors, Boom. Dan Southside Marine. We've actually got a guest on tonight, Adam Griffith, one of my Here's My Gear Pro staffer, and works down at Dan's. We're going to talk to him towards the end of the show. Minnesota Teen Challenge. You and Mark have a big thing coming up. We'll have Jim Kelkofin on talking about that.
Yep.
Jim Muirhart. I came across him. It's true. I don't know if it was in
St. Paul Pioneer Press might have been there. Who knows
Dave
where you found
Orrick's
him.
article.
Yeah,
Thank
probably.
you. That's where I found it. St. Paul Pioneer Press, Dave Orrick's article about the 100-pound sturgeon. He went for about a mile ride. That was a lot of fun. When we come back, we're going to take a little. I've sent that picture to a lot of friends.
Yes, and before you let us go,
There's a little rest area, a little spunk rest area too.
So for our listeners on the way back from Devil's Lake, Dakota, from that wonderful film trip, there was a station restroom area I stopped at, and I'm going to put it on our Facebook. And if you can comment it on it, you'll get an autographed bumper sticker from Stru. Big Spunk Rest Area.
There you go.
Right on our Facebook where it's from.
All right, and when we come back, owner of Flatline Productions, Pete Hine, is our guest, and we're going to find out what helping others find their heartbeat again means.
Get your Twins Inside Update every weekday. Hardball with Mike Berardino of the St. Paul Pioneer Press.
Terry Ryan came back from his visit and was pleased with Buxton and said that everything is progressing properly. He just needs the bat to catch up. Well, the bat seems to be lagging here lately. I would have to think that he's a little bit lost, and that's what AA is for.
Hardball with Mike Berardino. Brought to you by Nature's Fury Nutri-Drink. Every Monday through Friday afternoon at 5:30 with Radioactive Sports. 105 The Ticket.
Lure the fish in with Berkeley Flicker Shads from Mills Fleet Farm. Get a 3-pack on sale, $9.99. Nothing says summer like cargo shorts. Choose from 2 styles and a variety of colors. Select men's cargos are only $12.99. Keep your pooch healthy by feeding Purina Prime Cuts or Come and Get It dog food. Just $18.99 a bag. And hit the road on BF Goodrich Advantage passenger tires. Buy 4, get a $50 MasterCard reward card at Mills Fleet Farm.
Smokes! That's the 4th straight kill shot.
I've been getting in some practice.
Is that a new rifle, too?
Yep, traded for it. Make that 5.
Lakes Trading Company. Buy, sell, trade, and receive expert firearms training. Permit to carry classes are also available at the indoor range. LakesTradingCo.com.
If you love the outdoors, then you probably have a truck that you love too. Custom Truck Accessories can help protect your truck from the rigors of outdoor activities. They have custom seat covers and floor mats to protect against the mud and dirt from the field. Toppers and tonneau covers to protect your gear. If you're a truck guy, you'll appreciate the knowledge and experience of the Custom Truck Accessories crew. Visit CustomTruckAccess.com or stop by their store to see what a difference being family-owned can make for you.
We at Dan Southside Marine would like to redefine the term man's best friend to mean his boat. Now, before you get all tweaky, let's talk this through. Although your dog is fun, dependable, and great to take fishing, so is an Alumacraft Navigator 165 CS. And while your dog may retrieve ducks with lightning speed, he'd have to be just a tick faster to pull you up for a slalom run like the Stingray 200 Bow Rider. And sure, your furry friend obeys your every command with heartbreaking enthusiasm, but think of the enthusiasm you'll feel watching the receptionist from the gym sunbathe on your Premier Pontoon Escapade 235. And finally, your boat will never drink too much lake water and throw up in your boat. To learn more about the best boats and motors in the Twin Cities or to complain about the dog thing, visit Dan's Southside Marine.
You'll not find a bigger inventory of Premier Pontoons and Alumacraft boats anywhere in the Twin Cities. Don't wait. Now's the time to buy. Any boat you see online is available for sale at Dan's Southside Marine.
This is the 105 The Ticket weather from Nature's Fury. Tonight, warmer than it usually is, a low of 60. And if you enjoyed today, it's about the same tomorrow. Thursday, high of 83, partly cloudy. Tomorrow night, possible showers, low of 63. And then Friday cools down a bit, high of 73. Thunderstorms likely in the morning. Saturday and Sunday cools off quite a bit. Saturday, high of 64. Sunday, 68. This weather update's brought to you by Nature's Fury. You can find Nature's Fury at your local Cub Foods and select holiday stores.
Now back to Ticket Outdoors, only on Sports Radio 105, The Ticket.
All right, thanks for joining us. I know it's a beautiful Wednesday night, so wherever you have us, you're listening, we certainly greatly appreciate it. If you can't catch the whole thing, you can re-listen to it again Sunday morning or catch the entire thing when we rerun it at 6 a.m. on this frequency, or catch the podcast sometime in the next couple of days, 105theticket.com.
You know what? I almost skipped tonight, guys, to go fishing. It's so beautiful out. Yeah. And I would be able to skip because I want to thank our sponsors from Dan Southside Marine, the guys down in Bloomington. Big Dan takes really good care of us.
Yes, sir.
Awesome rigging department. So if you still need some stuff done to your boat, electronics, graph, GPS, or you just want to go in there and shoot the bull, go visit Dan Southside. Alumacraft, those great folks down in St. Peter, Minnesota. I had the T-Pro out. Best aluminum boat in the market. Lakes Trading Company. It's not too late to go in and sight in your rifles because as you get closer to the hunting season.
And where is it?
Forest Lake.
Right off of 61, off of Highway 97 on the west side of 61.
If I would have screwed that up, that'd have been a bad deal, bro.
You
Just kidding. And hey, if you want to pimp out the truck, for fishing season, or you want to get ready for the fall pheasant shoot you're going to do in South Dakota at Great Plains, visit the folks at Custom Truck Accessories. Thank you guys for making it happen.
You
bet. Don't forget to follow us at Facebook.com/The Ticket Outdoors.
Thanks, Boom. Want to remind our listeners, Fleet Farm now rents contractor-grade equipment to get what you need when you need. I couldn't quite get through the queue there. Get what you need when you need it. Rent it, use it, bring it back to Mills Fleet Farm, fleetfarm.com. Our guest, Pete Hine, owner Flatline Productions. Welcome to Ticket Outdoors.
Hey, how you doing, guys?
Good. Good to have you in here.
You tell us. You've listened to the first 15 minutes. How we doing? There you go. That's good. That's good. That's good.
Entertaining. I just want to give a shout out to my smoking hot wife. You listen. My 3 kids, Emma, Zach, and Zane, listening tonight. Of course, my mom and dad up in Garrison.
Smoking hot wife. Huh?
Oh yeah.
Outstanding. Good.
So love you guys.
Someone's laying the seed. Huh?
Everybody's up in Garrison listening tonight.
Yeah, my whole family, both my wife's side and my side, are from up by the Mille Lacs area.
Pete, how old are your kids, Pete?
Zane is our youngest. He's 4. Zach is 7, and Emma's 11. So
you're busy. You're a busy man. Good for you.
Busy.
Let's put Dad to work. TeamFlatlineOutdoors.com. Says it right there on the website. Helping others find their heartbeat again. What's that mean, Pete?
Well, we gave birth to this thing back 7-8 years ago, and there's 5 of us guys that own this company. Clay and Corey Thompson. That's our president and vice president. Myself, and then Sam Puller and Tony Siebert, our executive producers. We really just got together, sat down. You know, we're just normal guys, got families and jobs, and we decided that
smoking hot wives.
And we
decided that a requirement for Flatline Outdoors to have a smoking hot wife.
It is. So we just sat there and really put a plan together for what our passions are, and what we wanted to do is give back to the community. And we, over the first year, what we did was just kind of gave roots to this thing. We built a foundation that we wanted to give back to the community, and doing that with youth programs. And that's kind of where our foundation was, is giving back to kids. And it's one of our callings for all 5 of us guys is to get kids, youth, underprivileged youth, special needs, into the outdoors. And as this thing grew over the first couple of years, we started expanding where Flatline Outdoors is going. We started getting in with the National Archery in the Schools program, local archery teams, and different things like that. And then our outreaches have even grown into the Wounded Warrior Project. Yeah. And, of course, like what we're going to talk about tonight is the Minnesota Teen Fishing Challenge and stuff like that. So it's been a fun ride. And one of the biggest things for us is a lot of our guys get a bigger charge out of actually getting someone else into the outdoors than they did when they were doing it themselves. So it's been a really awesome journey.
Pete Hine is our guest here, TeamFlatlineOutdoors.com, and you've given us some background on it, but let's be a little bit more specific. When you talk with youth and underprivileged and giving back to the community, what exactly are you providing? Is this a guide service then where you take these young men and women and you take them out hunting, fishing, these sorts of things?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we started this whole thing we weren't advertising. It was kind of word of mouth. We had a big youth event the first year, and we had a huge turnout. We had 150 kids show up, and it was just a local thing that we did at Clay and Corey's dad's farm right there in Elk River. Mm-hmm. And from there, it was just word of mouth. We got contacted actually by the University of Minnesota, and with that, the guys from the National Archery and the Screw program kind of came with that. And what we started doing is taking kids hunting and doing fully guided hunts. And what we do is we take them to the facility over there at Cedar Creek, and we put these kids in dorm rooms for like a 1 to 3 day hunt and mentor to them. So we take them out. We had a group of guys that would come alongside of us that we would take each individual kid, and they'd be with a mentor and take them out in the woods and go deer hunting and turkey hunting.
Wow, that's nice.
Pete, I've done some guiding out at our family pheasant operation in South Dakota. I've been guided on fishing and hunting trips, and there's always with experienced hunters that we have out, or I'm experienced and I'm guided, there's always just a kind of a little bit of awkwardness, like what are we doing, till you kind of fall into a routine, and I know what I'm doing. Some of these kids you take out, they just popped into my mind. What's the first? Do they know what they're doing? I mean, how awkward is it for you, for them, or how quickly do they fall into the outdoors and what it is you're trying to do?
Well, I think for us, like the outdoors is the hook. It's really easy to talk to these kids, because any kid you ask, you want to go hunting or fishing, 100% of the time we always got a yes. I mean, it was really easy, and having kids of our own, it made it even easier because we're dealing with kids at home.
You know how to interact with them.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And it's nice for us. I mean, from newborns on up to kids that are in college right now are in our families from Flatline Outdoors. Yeah. So we have a whole mixture of dealing with kids on all age brackets and stuff like that. So it was just one of the funnest things I've ever done in my life is getting kids their first animal.
We're going to talk about the Minnesota Teen Challenge here pretty quick, but TeamFlatlineOutdoors.com, Pat, one of the number of fellas, and it sounds like you probably have even a bigger support crew than that's operating this for about the last 5 or 6 years. I went to the website. I've been on your Facebook page. You're not taking them out for a little button buck or a doe here or there. Holy cow, are there some trophy pictures on your website?
Yeah, and one of the things that, with whitetail, you guys are whitetail hunters,
How
right?
do I qualify as an underprivileged youth?
Yeah. Well, we've expanded it too. We do things with the general public as well. I mean, some of the things that I've done with, like, say, the Minnesota Teen Challenge is given fully guided, bow fishing trips, turkey hunts, whitetail hunts.
I suppose, and then the money's kicked kind of back into to getting the underprivileged kids out and some of the youth.
Well, yeah, and like most of our events that we have and special hunts that we have, us 5 guys have funded it, or friends and family. So we really haven't advertised. I mean, that's one of the things that we need to do is raise some funds for Flatline Outdoors.
I've seen, that's, maybe we can help out in some small way. And by I mean Stro, he loves to write checks.
Yeah, I do.
But I've seen elk. I mean, you guys aren't just doing this up from Elk River to Garrison and that area. I mean, you must go out west, obviously.
Yeah, me and my wife are avid hunters. My smoking hot wife, I should say, she shoots a bigger deer than I do every year. Yeah. I mean, I owe it to my dad that got me into the outdoors, and hers to her dad. And that relationship that we have in the woods too, as husband and wife, is great. But we get out west. We don't get a whole lot of out west stuff with the kids and the Wounded Warriors and stuff. Maybe that's in our future, but Go ahead, Boomer.
One of the things that I love about the outdoors, and we talk about a lot on the show, Zepp and Stru, is how many folks just have really big hearts. And the more you get into it, the more you smile seeing someone else smile, and the less you want to catch the big trophy. And what you do, Pete, is absolutely amazing. And we run in a same. We have mutual friends when we talk before the show, and I'd love to help out Flatline. And we'll talk about Teen Challenge when I first met you. But for our listeners to fully appreciate what you do, how many trips do you do a year? How many kids do you bring out so they can really have a grasp of the breadth of stuff you guys do for the community?
No, that's a great question. When we first started this thing, it was 100% kids based. So we were, in the first few years, we were mentoring to anywhere from 80 to 120 kids a year. And we'd go to the National Archery and Screw Program state meet, and there'd be 1,200 to 1,400 kids coming through that school where we'd set up our booth, and it kind of transformed from that into, especially with whitetail hunting, because we specialize in turkey hunting and deer hunting.
Oh, yeah.
And one of the most important things is you could do 100 hunts a year, but if they're below average, where the kid's not seeing an animal and stuff like that. So it's hard to do a deer hunt or a turkey hunt in a really big group setting. So what we tried to do is refine that, just by experience, we refine that down to doing higher quality hunts and a lower volume. We're still doing the mentoring, because there's things that I do, with other ministries like Fishing for Life. We're still giving out, 250 to 350 fishing rods and tackle boxes to, my home church, the Refuge Youth Ministries and the Kids Zone and stuff like that. These kids that are coming through the program, we're still doing the bulk, but we've really refined it down to doing higher quality hunts and stuff like that for kids, their parents. And you see a kind of a shift in society right now. There's a lot of kids coming from single parent families, especially with moms without dads around. And that's some of the things that you can really speak into these kids' life, because they need a father figure in their life.
You talk about your wife, you talk about yourself, me, and everyone sitting here. We got it from Dad. We got one of the dads in here right now.
Boomer's dad.
Yeah, right, Papa Boomer. So we all know that, and there's just a lot of kids, more and more these days, that don't have that. So that's what organizations like Team Flatline Outdoors provides, really kind of a surrogate father in a way. Yes, true.
How many years has Flatline Outdoors been going on right now?
Well, we've been kind of filming hunts and doing things with first-time hunters for the last 10 years.
All right, so
we kind of put wheels
on
the road back in 2008 when we were officially a 501c3.
Zep mentioned that he was on your website today. What is that website? How do people find you? And how do you determine who you are going to help? You must be getting phone calls every day from people and who have kids who you'd like to take out, but are you limited?
Yeah, we want to make the hunts and the adventures high quality. So we do a lot of stuff with other ministries too. So some of the stuff that we like to do is donate our time. Donate a hunt to raise money for a ministry. We're a faith-based nonprofit organization.
Give us that website, would you?
Our website is teamflatlineoutdoors.com, and you can also find us on Facebook, and you can find myself, and Twitter and Instagram and things like that.
But do people have to qualify? How do you determine who is going to be with you and who is not? I mean,
we'll take just about anybody. I mean, one of the things the stipulations that we put on some of the kids that we were dealing with on the National Archery in the School program was we wanted to make sure we saw new faces every year. We didn't want a whole lot of repeat. So it's one of those things where all of us guys, we really enjoy teaching, and the mentorship part of it and the servanthood that comes with donating your time.
How many kids can you handle a year?
Oh, with 5 guys that we have and the group of mentors that we have and our friends and family, we could probably, do, I would say, maybe 10 really high quality hunts a year.
Wow.
And if you're doing like a bigger group setting where you're doing turkeys or a bow fishing trip or something like that, of course the volume could go up from there. But to get really high quality, like a deer hunt, you really have to focus on, lower numbers.
I know
deer are really smart.
Yeah. I know Boom's anxious to get back in on this. Guys, let's take a quick break. When we come back, Pat Hine, owner Flatline Productions, with a team of guys. I know he wants to spread that around.
It's Peter.
What'd I say?
Pat.
Oh, did I say Pat? Jeez, it's sitting right in front of me, too. Team Flatline.
No problem, Fred.
It's got to start with a B. Give me a Brad on that. TeamFlatlineOutdoors.com. We're going to talk Minnesota Teen Challenge, and I'm going to go eat some crow.
Passionate sports talk.
Jameis, can you please take down that photo? Within 1 hour, he couldn't control himself. He just had to put that in everybody's face, the crab legs. As a troll, he is already a first ballot Hall of Famer.
On your sports station, 105 The Ticket.
Boomer here from The Ticket Outdoors. Well, we made it through another long, cold winter in Minnesota. And guess what that means? It's time to hit the open water, baby. And I'm pumped to get back into the Alumacraft T-Pro 195 and get her wet. And I want to remind our listeners, now is a great time to check out the new lineup of Alumacraft boats. I love Alumacraft because they're made right here in Minnesota, and they're simply the best aluminum boat on the water. To learn more about Alumacraft and to find a dealer near you, go to alumacraft.com.
Lure the fish in with Berkeley Flicker Shads from Mills Fleet Farm. Get a 3-pack on sale, $9.99. Nothing says summer like cargo shorts. Choose from 2 styles and a variety of colors. Select men's cargos are only $12.99. Keep your pooch healthy by feeding Purina Prime Cuts or Come and Get It dog food. Just $18.99 a bag. And hit the road on BF Goodrich Advantage passenger tires. Buy 4, get a $50 MasterCard reward card at Mills Fleet Farm.
Steve Straczynski here of Coldwell Banker Burnett. It's time, my friend. If you're a Ticket Outdoors fan, then you're also a fan of hunting and fishing. I've got 29 years in real estate licensed in both Minnesota and Wisconsin, and I'll consider it a privilege to help you find that perfect lake home or the 40-acre piece of heaven that's hiding a Boone and Crockett right now. Hey, check me out on Facebook or email stru@stru.com. It's your money. Thanks. And thanks for having fun with us on the Ticket Outdoors.
Now back to Ticket Outdoors, only on Sports Radio 105, The Ticket.
All right, welcome back, everybody. Our guest, Pete Hine, owner Flatline Productions, Team Flatline Outdoors. We're talking about something you guys started up to 10 years ago, and really the last 5 or 6 years it's really kind of kicked in. And you guys are based out of where? Did you say Garrison, but Elk River you mentioned?
No, I'm from Princeton, but we call our world headquaters out of Elk River. That's where a lot of us guys are from. We graduated from high school together, and yeah.
And a little background here. You guys provide for youth and underprivileged youth mentoring and hunts and fishing trips and this sort of thing. And I know Boomer is ready to go here, Pete, but I just wanted to jump in and distinguish between the work that you do with the kids, and you said you also provide professional guide services.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so in other words, I could go to teamflatlineoutdoors.com, click on one of the tabs that says guide services, have you guys guide me, and know that the money that I'm paying you guys to guide me on a particular hunt or a fishing trip is going to go back into this service.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I don't really advertise that much. Most of the stuff that I do, I donate my time, to like the Minnesota Teen Challenge or other churches that are trying to raise money.
When was the last time you just went hunting? You just went out for yourself, filled your own tag?
Yeah, last year, I didn't get a deer. My daughter was 10 years old, at opening a deer hunting, so it was her first deer. So Emma, my daughter, she got to shoot her first deer. I would have traded 10-point bucks for that opportunity to spend in the deer stand with her.
Wow. Everybody here with kids would say that. You talk about going out and doing the trophy hunting and sort of being rabid about it every year. Yeah. It all changed when you get the kids. Now, especially if they want to participate. I have a couple of daughters that kind of got into it, not so much. But when they were active and wanted to participate, I could have given. I don't even think I carried a gun half the time.
Yeah. So it's been a couple years since I shot a deer, and actually, I think the last time I shot a whitetail in Minnesota was right after an opening weekend. I had given a fully guided archery deer hunting trip to the Minnesota Teen Challenge and a fully guided whitetail rifle hunt to the Minnesota Teen Challenge, and I gave up opening weekend of rifle with my family to take a kid, but to get, he shot his very first deer, and to have him punch his dad in the shoulder on video, as I'm videoing the whole thing, and he says, "Dad, I got my deer before you." And then to have his dad say, "You have no idea what this trip is, how it's changed our life. My life was going one way, his was going another. He won this rifle and this hunt." And he goes, "I know it wasn't until November, but we did this way back at the challenge, which was in the end of May, beginning of June." So they ended up buying hunting clothes and shotguns and rifles and all these different things. And they went grouse hunting, pheasant hunting, duck hunting, leading all the way up to this big event where I got to, videotape this kid killing his first deer.
Wow.
I went to trade it for the world. It was amazing.
You mentioned end of May, beginning of June, and here we are again, another Minnesota Teen Challenge upon us, but I know Boomer's ready to go with something.
Yeah, one question I had, Pete, is the...
Oh, for crying out loud. You said Alyssa Ebel
40 times.
40
50,
times that day. Although she's, an attractive lady, and I screwed up Pete's name here, so...
Oh, like Pete's ugly or something.
He has piercing eyes. Yeah. They're hypnotic, really.
Go ahead, Boom.
Pete, we talk about bringing kids out or bringing people out in the outdoors. Fishing, in 99% of the lakes in Minnesota, there's a public access, and so you can get people on the water. And I truly believe that 85% of the battle of fishing is just finding where they are, right? The fundamental piece. But when you get into hunting, which is a real passion of mine that my dad did because he hated fishing, so we always went hunting. But love you, Dad. It's the property, right? You have to find property that's pressured in the right way. It has the right ecosystem to hold that buck. And people in Minnesota and in South Dakota or wherever you are in Devil's Lake, they want to protect that land for hunting. How do you guys go about it, Flatline Outdoors, when you bring this kid out on this turkey hunt for a monster tom, or you're going to bring him for a big whitetail buck? How do you find access to the right land?
Well, turkey hunting is really easy because we can just go out and spend, countless hours roosting birds, just driving by. They're usually out in the field any time of the day. They don't really care. But when you get into whitetail, Minnesota's full of fanatical whitetail hunters. Yeah. Us 5 guys, and namely like Clay and Corey, it never ends. Deer hunting season never ends. So their property's set up for QDM, quality deer management, and it's a 24-hour.
That's
7 days
right
a week, 365, and we're all fanatical whitetail hunting. But to do the quality hunts like we like to do, it's really tough to find the land. So it's when we had the University of Minnesota, when we first started this thing, they had a 5,000-acre research facility over in East Bethel, and we would be able to take the kids there. But even taking 8 to 10 kids in a 3,000-acre area, you have limited time to hunt. The wind could be in the wrong direction, all these other things that you're really pressuring these deer, and they're not dumb. So the problem that we have at Flatline Outdoors, and we'd like to put it out there for people. If you have land that you want us to come and take kids hunting on, we'd really appreciate it. It's the toughest thing to do is find property. We've taken kids on state land. I've personally taken kids on state land, but just like that deer that I shot up, that was up in Pequot Lakes, that was a friend of the family. He said, come on up, and but it's really tough because guys spend countless hours getting ready for deer hunting.
Oh yeah, they're out there now. This is a key time of the year to get out there and get those plots ready, and you're planting, and right now is actually when you're out doing that. Well, let's segue over to Minnesota Teen Challenge. One of the reasons Pete is in today, and talk about Minnesota Teen Challenge, and I know you're involved with that this weekend with our producer Mark Lukey.
Yeah, one of the special things about Minnesota Teen Challenge is it's a special place in my heart because I firmly believe on this journey in life that you can help people. Every once in a while, someone needs a lift, right? We've all had tougher spots in life. We've all flopped like a crappie and came back. And I really think that Minnesota Teen Challenge is one of those organizations that does that, and I'm passionate about it. And Pete and I actually crossed paths. It was 2 years ago, and Friday night at Minnesota Teen Challenge, we'll have JK on. They do a dinner at the church, and then you hear the boys and girls and some of the adults, men and women, and they'll sing songs, and then they'll talk about the different fishing teams, different personalities, and whoever's there, and then they'll give away some prizes. And I was sitting there in the church pew, and then I heard JK or Al Linder or Ron or one of them go, and now we're going to give away 5 Matthews bows. All right, a Matthews bow, right? A Cadillac of what you would use archery hunting. Right. And I stopped, and I was, my ADHD, and I came to attention, and that's where I first ran across Pete, where you guys were giving Matthews bows to kids.
Yeah, absolutely. That's one of the things, for the Minnesota Teen Challenge, that's a Christ-centered ministry. And one of the things that was on my heart is to be able to, these men and women that are in the program, they're broken. This is like the Minnesota Teen Challenge is like their last step before they're going to go to prison or they could end up dead. So it was 2 things. It was one to see for the kids to come there, not only just get their parents to invite them and fish with them so they can have the opportunity to win a bow, was to see that what can happen when you make the wrong choice, and then also see what Christ can do in someone's life through the Minnesota Teen Challenge ministry. So it was kind of a double whammy for me, and it was a no-brainer. I started out giving away fully guided hunts and a bow, and then I told JK that we were just going to go all in and give 5 Matthews bows away to 5 kids. That's a really good draw for the youth.
And with all due respect to the power and the goodwill of the church and ministry, there comes a point, I think, in really troubled people's lives, and I know people that have been there, have had some moments myself, where you can't do it at a rec center, you can't do it at church in town. You've got to get them out of their element, and God doesn't speak to you any more loudly, I don't believe, than when you're out in nature.
Absolutely.
When you get out there, that's when you can really hear his voice, and you really get away from a lot of the distractions. So that makes this, I think, all the more important to reaching people who really need to hear it.
Yeah, absolutely. And they also have an outdoor mentor program. I went through the training for that, and that's something that JK heads up. So, and they also have, and I'm going to be doing this, a call out at Friday night's banquet for mentors for the Minnesota Teen Challenge. So they do have a thing on their website. If you go to mntc.org, they actually have a mentor tab, or you can click on it, and you can actually take these people out of the program and mentor to them. So
Pete, give us, our listeners, a little teaser, and give me a little teaser to what we're going to be talking about Friday night. What is Flatline Outdoors going to be doing at this year's Minnesota Teen Challenge on Gull Lake?
Well, this year we'll set up our normal table. We'll do the meet and greet outside the church. And then, of course, they start announcers and stuff like that for how much money the Teen Challenge has raised. And I actually got some figures together last night, and I told JK I was going to share them. But, we'll be there, myself, and I don't know if Clay or anybody else is coming, but I fished the tournament since it started with my dad and sponsored it. But
I can tell you what, you guys raised $220,000 last year.
Yeah, we did. And it's grown a long ways in the last 6 years. So this is their 7th annual. The first year was $60,000 the thing raised, then we had about 65 guys fishing it. And this year's goal is $250,000. That's $250,000. So if we don't even hit the goal, it's this event has raised $1.1 million, and it's increased from 65 anglers to anywhere from 110 to 120 teams, which is maxing out the DNR permit. So it's an event you don't want to miss. So if you're listening to the show right now, you need to sign up early for next year. You get to hang out with Al Linder, Ron Linder, Walleye Dan from Fleet Farm, one of the sponsors.
Boomer Stelmack will be out
there. And it's great. I mean, the Minnesota Teen Challenge is changing lives, and this event is their second largest fundraiser behind their gala. So it's an awesome program. It's very successful.
Hey, Pete, I understand. We know what your mission is, and you're accomplishing tons. I don't understand the relationship between the mission and Flatline Outdoors. I mean, how did that name come about?
Well, normally when you pull the trigger or hit the release on something, that's what happens to the animal. It flatlines, So that was one of the things that went into it, but helping others find their heartbeat again. I mean, it's not about, killing animals and that kind of stuff, because I know some people don't like that kind of stuff, but it's not just a hobby for us guys. It's a way of life. I mean, that's what it is. And
I would imagine once you start doing what you're doing, you can't help but get emotionally involved and care so much that you just can't stop.
Oh yeah. I mean, it's highly addictive. It's just like, just like hunting and fishing, and when you're actually capturing it like we do on video so they can relive it over and over again. The eyes of Sam and Tony, how they can build those stories and edit that and put it on DVD. It's amazing. And have a kid sit down. We actually had a kid that had autism and didn't talk much. He went on his first turkey hunt, killed a turkey, and his dad said he's never smiled. That kid, you can just slap the smile off his face.
Wow.
It was amazing. So that was Jordan.
Yeah, for our listeners,
it was amazing.
We got Pete Heidon, the owner of Flatline Productions, a faith-based nonprofit that brings kids into the outdoors to help them in life with what they're dealing with. Pete, for our listeners, tell them how they, can donate money, and for the companies, how they can get involved and help. How do they contact Flatline Outdoors?
Well, you can go to our website, teamflatlineoutdoors.com, and we actually have a contact us on there too. And you can also find me on Facebook at Pete Hine or Team Flatline Outdoors, and all that kind of stuff comes to me. So you can actually message me on there, and that's the best way to get a hold of us.
Our guest, Pete Hine, teamflatlineoutdoors.com. We're going to be talking to JK in about a half hour, so we're going to get some more information on Minnesota Teen Challenge and the nuts and bolts. So we'll get to that if you didn't catch that. Otherwise, visit teamflatlineoutdoors.com, their webpage, for no other reason than there's just some awesome pictures of a lot of trophies on there, and it's pretty easy to navigate. I was able to find my way around and really get the message in a very short period of time. So, Pete, thanks for coming all the way down here to the Ticket 105 studios.
And I just want to give a shout out to Team 503 and the Minnesota Teen Challenge and the guys at Full Throttle and Fishing for Life and Wildlife Research Center for always having our back for all these events.
I got a feeling we're going to be talking to you again.
No, I apprete it, guys.
Have a great weekend up there.
Yeah,
good for you
I'm
guys.
looking forward to it. And Boomer,
thanks for all you do.
We'll be swapping some waypoints, brother.
Sounds good, guys.
All right, when we come back, Jim Muirhart got a 100-pound sturgeon on a 10-pound test line.
Fishing for walleye.
He's got a story.
Joined Radioactive Sports at the office on Washington Avenue for Twins Ticket Friday.
The superstar Mike Morris and I will be there from 4 to 7 outside on the patio, along with our ticket girls, giving away tickets to that night's game and future games.
From the office on Washington and 844 Hay workers, get fueled up before the game with $3 cold domestic drafts and a great full menu.
Radioactive Sports live at the office on Washington before Friday Twins home games. Then walk right over to Target Field.
Finally, an office you can have fun at with Sports Radio 105 The Ticket.
Hey, do you know what time it is? It's springtime, and it's time to get to Mills Fleet Farm so you can give your yard a cut and a trim, give the garden a makeover, and turn the earth upside down. Plant, fertilize, weed, and feed. Build a wall, a fence, or how about a patio? Then, time to grill and chill. Yep, it's springtime, and it's time to get to Mills Fleet Farm for all your lawn, garden, and outdoor living supplies.
Boomer here from the Ticket Outdoors. Well, we made it through another long, cold winter in Minnesota. And guess what that means? It's time to hit the open water, baby. And I'm pumped to get back into the Alumacraft T-Pro 195 and get her wet. And I want to remind our listeners, now is a great time to check out the new lineup of Alumacraft boats. I love Alumacraft because they're made right here in Minnesota, and they're simply the best aluminum boat on the water. To learn more about Alumacraft and to find a dealer near you, go to alumacraft.com.
At most boat stores, what you see is what you get, which might sound good, but what you see may not be what you want. See, many big box boat stores get their boats pre-rigged, with equipment you may not want in places you may not want it. You wouldn't let someone pick out your wife or your kids, and they're almost as important as your boat. So come to Dan's Southside Marine, and we'll customize your boat to you. Say you're a lefty. You might want your depth finder here instead of there. Or if you're freakishly tall, you might want things at a special angle. Maybe you're a Virgo and you want everything in alphabetical order. We let you choose, even if we think it's weird. Because no matter where you choose to put things, at Dan's you're choosing the best. Motors by Suzuki, Yamaha, and Honda. Brands like Alumacraft boats and Premier pontoons. If you want what you see, you know where to get it. But if you want what you want, come to Dan's Southside Marine.
You'll not find a bigger inventory of Premier pontoons and Alumacraft boats anywhere in the Twin Cities. Any boat you see online is available for sale at Dan's Southside Marine.
Now back to Ticket Outdoors, only on Sports Radio 105, The Ticket.
Well, we'll always make time for some gifts. Thanks again to TeamFlatlineOutdoors.com. Pete just getting ready to roll on out of here. And thank you for these wonderful gifts. This is beautiful. Thank you, Pete. I love this a lot. So, check it out. I know. Look at us.
It's a pretty badass T-shirt.
The greedy
here,
media guys sitting here going, it's Christmas morning around here. I like it.
Hey, speaking of Christmas morning, let's give a big shout out to our sponsors that give us the awesome opportunity to talk about hunting and fishing on the radio. Dan, Southside Marine. Dan, thanks for being with us. And the boys in Bloomington, they do an awesome job. If you're still looking to get some things rigged up on that Alumacraft T-Pro, Graph, GPS, new trolling motor, go visit Dan Southside Marine. Alumacraft, the folks down in St. Peter, Minnesota, that make the best aluminum boat on the market. I love that Tournament Pro. Can't wait to get it on the Teen Challenge up at Gull Lake this weekend. Lakes Trading Company. If you want to sight in your rifle or you want to go get some classes on shooting, go visit those folks in Forest Lake. And Custom Truck and Accessories. I've got to get up there because if you're looking to pimp out the truck for hunting season or need some bigger tires to get to the sloughs that have those secret big bass, go visit the folks at Custom Truck Accessories.
Right up Central Avenue, Highway 65. And I bet on a night like tonight, they've got that swap meet and truck show up there. I bet that place is a hopping. Don't forget, Fleet Farm rents contractor grade equipment now. You get what you need when you need it, you rent it, you use it, and you bring it back to Mills Fleet Farm. Let's welcome to Ticket Outdoors, boys and girls, Jim Earhart. Is that right, Jim?
Yeah, that's it.
No, welcome to Ticket Outdoors, man.
Welcome, Jim. This is Steve Straczynski. Thanks for being on, young man.
Yeah, no problem. Appreciate it.
Screw's Mystery Guest of the Week, although we've been talking about you for a couple of weeks. Of course, you got the big write-up in David Orick's article, the outdoor editor for the St. Paul Pioneer Press at TwinCities.com, if anybody wants to go read it, because you're going to get the entire story. But actually, we're going to try and get that. So, Jim, how did your life change since you had just ended up in the newspaper?
Well, yeah, it's been good. A lot of publicity. Sometimes, you wonder if it's, a lot of publicity. All the manufacturers have been kind of getting a hold of me, all the rods and reels and lines
terrible.
And all that stuff.
But Jim, we don't care. We don't care about rods and reels. We care about the babes. Any babes checking, calling you and sitting on your doorstep?
Sturgeon groupies?
Actually, when I got home, there was a bunch of them. So
nice. Jim,
he's a single young man, by the way.
Tell our listeners how old you are, Jim.
34 years old.
Hey, Jim Boomer, thanks for joining us on the show tonight, man.
Yeah, no problem. Appreciate it.
So tell our listeners a little bit. We jumped in there. What are you so famous for our listeners that just tuned in? Why do you have all these babes waiting at your house for you?
Well, we had about 2 weeks ago. I got caught into a 70-inch sturgeon.
Unbelievable.
Lake sturgeon. We're figuring we were figuring it weighed well over 100 pounds. And it was a fight. It was a fight to remember. I had my uncle who was, 55, 56 years old, and he ain't never experienced anything like that. My other buddy in the boat, he ain't never experienced anything like that. And this thing was literally, more than half the size of our boat. We're in a 14-foot boat, and, this thing's over, 6 feet long. So it was pretty incredible.
Jim, first of all, Jim, where are you from?
Brownsville, Minnesota.
Minnesota.
Right down by the Iowa border, kind of.
So let's set the table here. Jim, you're our guest, talking about his big catch. Now, you were out, you said, with your uncle and a buddy. The three of you?
Yeah, just the three of us out there.
In a 14-foot boat.
Where at?
Foot. We're down by, it's down by Bass Camp. It's Lock and Dam 5.
I know the area, I guess.
Yeah, it's down, it's north of Winona, but it's south of Wabasha. So those are the two bigger areas that people would probably know if you're listening.
You're well down south down there, and this about what time of the day? How long had you been out? Did you guys get in the river in the morning?
Yeah, we were on the river by 7 in the morning.
All right.
We had fished all day. We'd been all over, up and down a couple dams, up and down dams and stuff like that. And we went through another lock and dam down south of us, and had come back up and. We figured later in the night we wanted to be closer to the dam because usually things are coming into the shallows there and feeding and stuff like that. And we wanted to get underneath the dam lights, So the U.S. Army engineers, they got them dams lit up very, very well, so you can see what you're doing down there. You get a snag or you bust a line, you got to retie or whatever,
Yep.
So you can really see what you're doing. So that's one of the main reasons why we went in there. And usually the fishing's real good too. We fish down there quite a bit. So
Jim, you talked about hitting the shallows towards the evening because you thought that's where the fish were going to be, and
absolutely.
That's not a typical approach for sturgeon, right? You weren't chasing sturgeon, were you?
No, absolutely not. No, actually, what we were doing is we landed in, we pulled in towards. The one concrete wall barrier that the barges go through. And we got close to that, and we just we anchored down, and we can cast into the current and just pull it back. So you're going to cast into about 25 to 30 feet of water, and you're going to pull it back up. And then we were sitting in about 10 feet of water, so we were pulling it back up. So as the fish were coming into shallows, for stuff like that, we were in the mix of going from deep to shallow, and that's usually a pretty good hit there about that time of night.
What? Tell us about the rig you're using. What were you throwing? Line, that kind of thing.
Well, I use a medium-heavy Shimano Crucial rod. I use 10-pound fire line, and I just got this new reel. I can't remember. Daewoo or something like that.
Daiwa. That's Daiwa,
okay,
yeah.
Yeah, I just got that. It was probably $150 reel. Just got a new reel. Wanted to try. I never tried one of the reels before, so I was real curious on trying one. And I tried one of them and absolutely loved it.
Yeah. So you've got a pretty good setup here for a medium, heavy, 10-pound test.
Well, I can see a 15, 20, 25-pound northern, but not a 100-pound sturgeon. But there's no lead or anything. Just what were you fishing with? What was your bait?
Well, I just had a quarter-ounce jig with a 3-inch Mr. Twister. Green on it.
Hold on. You were using a plastic?
Plastic.
An artificial bait.
Artificial bait, yep.
Sure.
Jesus.
Isn't that something?
Doesn't everybody? Oh, by the way, how was the fishing?
It was on and off. The willies were, walleye, I call them willies, but, the willies they were deeper, they didn't, normally they come up, into the shallows early in the morning and stuff like that, and they were deeper. And everybody I talked to, they were deeper, and, we had a hard time finding them, and, we did end up finding them more and deeper in the middle of the river. We did end up finding them, but, it was real shoddy, I think we only had maybe 5 in the boat total between the three of us, maybe caught 30 fish for the day, which isn't a bad day, but I went out there and caught 50, 60 fish by myself, in a day. So, in general, it was a good day of fishing, at that point, but, it wasn't like, we're pulling them in one after another,
Right.
Go ahead, Boomer.
Jim, I stopped there when you were talking about using a green plastic Mr. Twister, because just to reset for our listeners out there, we're on the phone with Jim Yarad, who caught a 100-pound sturgeon. When you go sturgeon fishing, guys, when I was talking about the Alumacraft up there on the Rainy River, you're using a big, heavy rod. You're using a bait caster with braided line that's typically 50 to 100-pound test. You're using a circle hook on there with gobs of night crawlers. And then you're using a no-roll weight because you're typically finding sturgeon in some type of river system with a current. So you're using a 3 to 4 ounce, no roll weight, and you just let it sit out there, and like something on a TV show or River Monsters, you just hear the tick, 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 and then with a circle hook, you really don't set it. You just kind of pull back. That's your typical setup for sturgeon, and you were totally set up for walleye.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep. Right in that area, we find that the green and the white, the twister tails, they've been excellent. That and red hair, and just a hair jig, just buck hair, red buck hair on a jig, no minnow, no nothing.
Wow.
We found that to be extremely, extremely popular. And I tell you, when I had some buddies that, they did that a lot, and they kind of got me hooked on it, and they told me about it, and I'm like, no way, no minnow, no nothing. They're like, yeah, try it, And they say that hair replicates a parasite in the water, and that's why the walleyes are very keen on that, on just the hair itself. And it's kind of hit or miss, it's either hot or it's not. Either works or it don't. Maybe once in a while you'll be spotty, but, on the river I can use 2 lines. So, I'm usually plastics with one and live bait with the other, and whatever one starts catching fish, you switch, and, you got 2-3 guys on a boat, and there you got 6 lines in, and, everybody's trying different colors. You usually find it right away, but, purple has been hot, but it just seemed like that the green and white seemed to be good there that weekend,
Jim, I totally get what you're saying. When I was just on Devils, one of the things that I like to do to get away from a jig and a minnow bite is I'll use about a 1/4 ounce jig, and I'll use about a 4-inch artificial minnow or a Mr. Twister, and that can be a typical walleye setup for a lot of lakes. You're throwing it, you're doing kind of a light horizontal to a vertical jig, you're bringing it up, and then you bring it down slowly so that tail has some action. And then when the walleye typically hits, it's kind of just like dead weight or a bump. And then you set the hook, and if it doesn't shake all over to the left or right, typically, you got a walleye versus a pike running with it. Walk our listeners through this type of setup you had and what it felt when 100-pound sturgeon hit it.
Well, with a 1/4 ounce jig and my little Mr. Twister on it, okay, if we step back just a couple, I had some really bad luck right before this. We were on the other side of the river, on the Wisconsin side, and I was pulling them in pretty decent in the back of the boat. So my buddy Eli, he wasn't catching nothing, so he's like, all right, we're moving. I ain't catching nothing, we're moving. So I was like, all right.
Good old Eli, yeah.
Your buddy doesn't care how much how many you're catching.
I'm catching fish, but he ain't catching fish.
Yeah, we're moving.
It was fun, so we ended up moving. So when we went back over to the Minnesota side, I had snagged and lost a couple lures, and I was like, man, I can't catch a break here. Why am I the only one snagging out of everybody, So when I threw it out there and it hit the bottom, I'm kind of giving it a little flick here and there, and all of a sudden I'm like, man, are you kidding me? Another snag? I'm like, and I kind of look at my uncle, and I'm like, and it's dark, and the lights are kind of going, and I got my rod, like, pointing straight over my head, So I got, like, a 7-foot rod, and I got my arms straight up, so I got my arms straight up in the air, and I'm like, are you kidding me? Look at this Jim, and my uncle's name is Jim, too, so, and he's like, and he's sitting there, and he's looking at my line, and he goes, I don't think you got a snag. And I'm like, what? And he's like, look at your line. And it was just heading downstream, or it was heading upstream, kind of towards us, but kind of away from us. And I'm like, oh, man, I think you're right. And all of a sudden that thing just went screaming by us, went out and went screaming by us, and my line sounded like something through, I don't know what you want to say, just out in the ocean fishing where that thing just started zinging.
And kids, hold on, Jim. I'm going to stop you right there because the race is on. We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, Jim Muirhart does not have a snag. He's going for a ride on Ticket Outdoors.
Sports Radio 105, The Ticket. She means the world to you. And Jared, the Galleria of Jewelry, brings you a breathtaking selection of diamonds from all over the world. Jared buyers enjoy global access and purchase many of our rough diamonds directly from the mines. So we're sure to offer a diamond that's just right for you. Plus, our artisans cut and polish diamonds in our state-of-the-art facility. And all of our diamonds come with a lifetime guarantee. Add it up, and it means a diamond of exceptional quality awaits you. That's why you went to Jared. Learn more at jared.com.
Any day.
Kids, laundry day.
Every season. Keep your home and its appliances running with a Service Choice plan from Minnesota Energy Resources. The Silver Plan covers repairs to your home's appliances and even includes your furnace and air conditioner for just $27.95 a month, so you can relax and keep them going. Service Choice from Minnesota Energy Resources. For peace of mind, call 866-772-1123 or visit servicechoice.com.
From the Mills Fleet Farm Studios, WGDX Lakeville, WRXP Cambridge, WGBZ Eden Prairie, a Cumulus station.
This is the 105 The Ticket weather from Nature's Fury. Tonight, warmer than it usually is, a low of 60. And if you enjoyed today, it's about the same tomorrow. Thursday, high of 83, partly cloudy. Tomorrow night, possible showers, low of 63. And then Friday cools down a bit, high of 73. Thunderstorms likely. Saturday and Sunday cools off quite a bit. Saturday, high of 64. Sunday, 68. This weather update's brought to you by Nature's Fury. You can find Nature's Fury at your local Cub Foods and select holiday stores.
Now back to Ticket Outdoors, only on Sports Radio 105, The Ticket.
All right, welcome back. Don't forget, kids, that we rerun this Sunday mornings at 6 o'clock. You can catch the podcast on 105theticket.com. Ticket Outdoors, our guest, Jim Earhart, he's talking about, this is a story that appeared in the St. Paul Pioneer Press. David Orrick, the outdoor editor there. That's where I first read it. Stru was turned on to it and tracked down his mystery guest. Jim, when we last talked to you, when we left off, you just realized that it wasn't a snag. Your Uncle Jim said, that's not a snag. This thing is running, and away we go.
Yeah.
Hey, Jim, how many feet of line did you have on that reel there?
150 yards.
All right.
Plenty.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
Should be a lot.
For Willies.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we had quite a bit of line on her. But, man, when this fish come back around the boat and went screaming by us, and at that point, I was in the middle of the boat. So I got my uncle on my left, and I got my buddy Eli on the front of the boat. And, we got 6 lines in the water, and I'm facing the one way. All of a sudden, my line just went screaming. It was zinging like something you seen in Jaws, And I go running to the front of the boat, and I got my rod hanging out, and I look at my buddy. I was like, man, you got to pull the anchor up. Like, man, I got a big one.
We're going.
And, and through all of this, we're trying to get all the lines and the anchor. And the first thing we're trying to do is get that anchor out of the water so we don't get that anchor, my line tied up in that anchor. But he had ran into the dam towards the secondary where the barges go through. There's secondary opening where the barges go. And so we went in there, and at that point, he had to stop at that concrete wall, and he had to turn around. So at that point, I had enough line on my line for him to stop, turn around, and come back towards me. So at that time, we were able to get all the rods and reels in, and we were able to get the anchor up. And then he just took off down that concrete wall, down the big concrete wall where the barges go. He just kind of followed that down, and we were able to get the boat. I told Eli, it's like, dude, you got to get the boat running. We got to follow this thing. There's no way. And I told him, I said, I can't slow it down. I had a pretty good idea how much stress I could put on my line and my rod before something was going to give. Either the knot, the jig was going to straighten out, or the line was going to snap in half. So
God, yeah, you would think so.
I tightened her up about as far as I thought I should go, and maybe then some, because she was burning line so hard. I figured I wasn't putting as much stress on with all the line being burned. But, we went back and forth, left to right, left to right, left to right. I mean, we fought this thing. I mean, it felt like forever, and I was like, man, I don't know what I got, but man, this thing's ridiculous. I mean, I couldn't believe how much power this thing had. I mean, it was just absolutely incredible. And I've been fishing for 30 years, man. I ain't never had a fish be able to pull a boat around like this, And
since we already gave it up that it was a sturgeon, and everybody knows that, had you caught a sturgeon before?
This is actually, me and my buddies, we fish the river a lot.
Yeah. And
all my buddies that have been in a boat, they've caught sturgeon left and right. They've caught 10, 11, 12 sturgeon, in this area. But nothing, 3-footers, smaller ones, they'll have the spikes on them and they're smaller and stuff like that. It's kind of a defense mechanism for sturgeon. But as they get older, them spikes kind of go away. But, we've never caught anything remotely this big. My buddy hooked onto one and the thing jumped out of the water and we lost him that way. But we have no idea how big it was, maybe 48, 50 inches or something like that, but we have absolutely no idea. But just the pure girth and strength of this thing was just absolutely incredible. To be able to pull a boat around as much as it did, basically when this thing wanted to take a left, the boat was going left, whether or not he was steering the boat or not.
Oh man!
How long did it take you to land this thing, and how far down river do you think you actually went?
Well, I figure. We were probably a mile downstream. But, I mean, we crossed the river back and forth numerous times.
Well,
easily 6 or 7 times. And it's probably a quarter of a mile across.
Let's stay with you here.
Wow.
Continue on in where you're at here. Now, this thing has been running. You're only about 5 or 10 minutes into it. You got the lines out of the water, the anchor's pulled, and you're heading back up the river.
Yeah. So, at this time, we were kind of, everybody, the adrenaline was kind of really, really humping and humping and humping and humping. And at that point, I was kind of my adrenaline was kind of coming down from my high just a little bit. And I'm like, man, you got to get this on video. You got to video this because ain't nobody going to believe us. So my buddy, my buddy who was driving the boat, and I got this
Eli.
Yeah, Eli. I got this big old headlight on on my line, the end of my line. So he gets my phone out and he's got videotaping me as I'm catching this fish. And probably a half hour into it, this thing surfaced. I'd put enough pressure on him to get him to come up. And he came up to the surface, and it was just like, literally, it was just like a massive seal. I mean, it's the only thing I can actually compare it to. It was like a massive seal just swimming next to our boat. He's just swimming next to the boat. Like, it ain't no thing. Like, he ain't even, it ain't nobody's business. He just swimming next to the boat. Like, I ain't even hardly touching him, putting any pressure on him.
7 feet. Yeah.
And this thing's just swimming and swimming and swimming and swimming and swimming. And finally, this fish finally come to a point where I was like, I told Eli, I'm like, I think we got a chance. I think we got a chance. I think we might be able to get this fish. So the fish really, really tired down, and I was able to, at this point, we were probably like 35 or 40 minutes into it, and this fish was just kind of hovering next to the boat, real, real slow, kind of swimming along, but real, real slow. We were able to put the boat in idle, and I was able to put enough pressure on him to hold him down. At that point, Eli was able to grab a hold of the back of the tail, and he was able to grab the fish. My uncle kind of put his arms up underneath him to try to get this fish to kind of pull him up into the boat. And, she wasn't ready yet. She really gave a pretty good solid 5 or 6 kicks. And
another wind there, yeah.
Yeah, and that fish took off again. And, really at that point I thought we had her, I'm like, oh, yeah, we got her, but we didn't get her, and then that fish took off, and she went straight to the bottom. I mean, this fish just went directly to the bottom. We were 34, 35 feet at that point, just went straight to the bottom, and then started going downstream at that point, downstream, in the current, in the deeper water.
And you're thinking, uh-oh.
And at that point, I was like, oh, man. And I told Eli at that point, I said, I think that was our chance, man. I think that was our one and only chance we're going to get at this fish. And, we ran her downstream. At that, we had to have been well over a mile. We had kind of gone around this big bend to the left. And all of a sudden, she just stopped. It was like a big log, a big anchor. I mean, it was just this big, massive, heavy whatever on the end of my line, and it just sat there. And I got a lot of pressure on, and then I started kind of taking a little bit of pressure off, I'm like, okay, is she going to run anymore, or, what's going on here?
Old girl's tuckering out finally.
Yeah. And at that point, I looked at Eli, and I'm like, this fish ain't going anywhere. I'm like, you're just sitting here.
In Dave Orick's article, you mentioned what the end of your rod looked like and that line looked like. I love that description.
Yeah, at that point, we were kind of, when the fish wasn't running anymore, we were all kind of focusing in on, kind of everything. And, and I kind of looked at the end of my rod at that time, and it looked like a big old cotton ball, like a big, the cotton ball you pull out of a piece of aspirin bottle. And it just looked like this huge cotton ball on the end of my line, the very tip of my line, the very eye of my line.
That's amazing. Go ahead, Boomer.
Jim, did you ever think at that point, you had a walleye net, right?
Yeah, we had a walleye net, yep.
Did you ever stop and think, how in the hell am I going to get a 7-foot fish in a walleye net?
Sorta.
All right, so now she's laying on the bottom. She's tuckered out. Is she done running now?
Yeah, the fish was done running at that point. I mean, this is an hour, roughly an hour, maybe hour and a half, 45
How are you
minutes.
feeling, man, at this point?
I'm
Tired.
pretty, my wind is done. I mean, literally, my back and my neck were like cramping. I was sore. My arms are pumped, just pumped. My veins are kind of sticking out of my neck, And,
Hey, Jim, back to the same question as last time then. From point A to point B, how much time did it take to get that boat in the water? I mean, in the boat, right? That fish in the boat, rather. Yeah.
Didn't get her in the boat, right?
Yeah.
Well, I want to get to the end here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How did you get the fish?
Well, when we were sitting there and the fish was just sitting there on the bottom, I looked at my buddy and I said, I told him, I think the only way we're going to get this fish is we got to beach this fish.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
We have
that's
to pull
right,
this-
yeah.
We have to pull this fish onto the shore, onto a sandy shore. And, you know, if anybody has been around Mississippi, around that area, and, you know, in the Mississippi in general, there's a lot of beachy areas.
Yeah.
So basically right in front of us, I kind of shined my light. I said, just run this boat right up on beach. I said, I'll try and pull this thing along with us. And it just basically hovered alongside of the boat. I mean, it hovered on the bottom, but we were in about 20 feet of water, and we just kind of slowly pushed ourselves. And then when we got the last, 8 feet, I made him just kind of hammer on it and shove the boat up on shore. And then I was able to just kind of slowly pull that fish in, and that fish came right to shore. It came right
pulling a human body
side
in.
up. It came belly up on the shore and was breathing good at that time. You know, where I was really, really, really nervous of the fish. You know, I mean, this is an absolute massive fish, you know, an old fish.
Ancient,
and, you know, I mean, the stress it puts on this fish is, you know, it's a big time deal. And, you know, and I know I ain't going to keep the fish, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, it was important to make sure this fish lives. So, you know, obviously, you know, how many people are going to sit there and tell you they caught a fish this big, you know, weighing this, you know, had to have weighed, you know, 100 plus pounds. You know, I got to get a picture of this fish, you know. So
I think you've earned it.
So we get the fish, all three of us. We tried with two guys. We couldn't get the fish in the bowl. So all three of us, we had to have a guy on the tail, a guy in the middle, and a guy in the front. We were able to hoist this fish into the boat. And
there's no one there to take a picture because all three guys holding the fish.
Yeah, right. I know, right? So we were able to kind of collaborate all our stuff in the front of the boat, you know, and kind of get it out of the way, and then they kind of helped me get the fish positioned, and we had to get all our headlights and flashlights positioned in the right spot so the phone would take pictures. I bet I got 40 or 50 pictures of this fish, you know, and only 3 of them really turned out, and one of them is the one I sent you. You know, it was one that most people have seen here now.
Yeah.
But I did get some halfway decent video of it while it was swimming in the water next to the boat, you know, with the rod bent over, which was pretty cool, but it was very, very brief. But we get the fish in my arms, you know, and we snapped some pictures of it, and, you know, Eli was showing me the pictures after you know, I'm like, I'll make sure I get a good picture, not a fuzzy one, because he kept telling me the picture kept turning out red. So we kept taking pictures, and maneuvering lights until we finally got it. And we finally got a few pictures that I was happy with. And I'm like, okay. So at that point, we made sure we measured the girth, you know, the length as best we could and stuff like that. You know, I wanted to get a fairly accurate measurement, you know. I mean, you know, I didn't want to be like 5-6 inches off. You know, I wanted to be pretty confident, you know, and what I said was what it was. And when I measured the 27, we measured there around. It was 27.5 inches around.
Around.
And I'm just sitting there shaking, going, man, I've never even caught a walleye that long. You know, I haven't even caught a walleye that long.
The circumference of this fish, yeah.
So it was at that point it was pretty crazy, you know. I mean, it was really, really hitting me of how big this fish really was, you know. And it literally, I could hardly move with this fish on my arms. I mean, I'm not a very big guy, but I mean, this fish was absolutely heavy. I mean, it was massive, and luckily the fish didn't squirm around. It was pretty poopered out, so the fish didn't move around a whole lot. So when I was holding it, it would stay pretty steady for pictures. So we got the measurement, and I told these boys, you know, we took a little video of it. We took some pictures. I figured the fish was out of the water roughly 5 minutes. We got the fish back in the water, kind of jumped in, you know, really got the water splashed on them. You know, I had my headlight on. I was watching the gills. The gills were moving great. She was sucking water and really, really good.
Good.
We backed the boat offshore, and we pulled the fish around for probably 25 to 30 minutes. And, you know, she was just wore out, you know.
But she made it? Did she make it?
You know, she swam off. And she went straight. She didn't go straight down, but she swam off, just kind of going towards the bottom. You know,
I want to make this a happy ending. Of course, she made it. She's down there feeding right now.
You know, I tell you, you know, when we let her go, because my uncle was like, you know, he's like, you know, this is 35 minutes. He goes, I think she's just extremely tired. I think we should let her go. She's not going belly up. She's hovering. She's going down, and we did. We let her go, and. Man, I'm straight honest. I got every reason to believe that fish made it. So, and all three of us do. So, it was a great ending, you know. And it would have been almost devastating to know that fish didn't make it.
Well, you tell a good fish story, and I tell you what, that's a hell of a story, man.
Yeah.
It really is. Jim Earhart, our guest, got a 100-pound sturgeon on a 10-pound test line. You guys know these sturgeon better than I do. Boomer, how old is this thing?
You know, I bet you that fish is probably 50 to 60 years old. Yeah. And one of the impressive things there, Jim, is when you were holding that fish, one of the things that I've noticed notice about holding a sturgeon versus a big pike or a walleye or even a tarpon for that matter is a sturgeon, they're like rock hard, aren't they, man?
Yeah.
I mean, they're all flipping muscle.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Jim, after you catch a big fish like that or Zepp, you shoot a big deer, I still get so worked up, Pete, that it literally takes me 10 minutes to like calm down. I'm shaking so much. What was that like for you, Jim, after you released that? What did you do on the boat?
Stepped back and took a big deep breath and you know, thank the Lord that, man, you know, the opportunity to give me, you know, and something like that. I mean, you know, 30 years of fishing, and you know, how many times have people said, you know, man, I had a big one on, I don't know what it was, you know, and all that. I mean, it's happened to me dozens of times. You know, I mean, maybe not dozens, but it's happened a dozen times. You know, piles of time where, you know, I'll get that big one, boom, I lose, you know, all of my line breaks. And I can sit back and say that I got this. You know, I felt like my years of experience and learning and listening and, you know, and reading magazines and all that stuff, you know, it pays off that, you know, your knowledge of what you do. I mean, you don't catch a 100-pound fish on 10-pound line when you don't know what you're doing.
Absolutely nuts.
And that's why it was kind of fun to talk to you and get you on the radio. Dave Warwick does a great job. I loved your article. But when you're talking about it, you obviously know what you're talking about. We have just 1 minute left, Stu.
We got 1 minute. Hey, just got a text from someone who's listening right now. He said, hey, please talk about the proper way. You're listening to the show tonight. Love the story. Please talk about the proper way of, I don't know who this is, to be honest with you, of picking up a sturgeon. There's so many pictures on Facebook about people holding them by the gills. It's concerning. Picking them up by the gill plates, I don't know anything about this.
All right.
Rips their gills in the corners, even if you don't put their hands in the gills themselves, and they will sometimes die later. Thanks for spreading the word. I don't know what that means.
All right, well, great.
Who knows how to pick them up?
There you go. Thanks for the lecture.
You bet.
Jim Earhart, we got to let you go there, buddy. I'm glad we got it all in. You told a great story. That was fantastic. Thank you so much for sharing it on Ticket Outdoors, man.
Yeah, you bet.
That's going to be one, you know, I love to go back and listen. You know, we had the Bobcat story here. You know, of course, the famous bear story. And I'm going to go back and listen to this one on the podcast for sure. Good luck out there. Happy fishing. It's all downhill from here, right? Easy fishing from now on. You've got your big one.
You can't top this one.
Yeah, everybody keeps telling me that. They say, I think you caught your once in a lifetime. And I say, well, I ain't going to stop trying.
No, I don't suppose. Hey, Jim, thanks a lot, man. We appreciate it.
You bet, man. Thanks for having me on.
Take care, sir.
That was great. Thank you, Shrew. Another mystery guest. You just hit it out of the park. We're going to go back and talk about Minnesota Teen Challenge. We've got JK on next.
Sports and legal issues. They don't mix very often, do they? Join Marsh Hallberg with Bob Sansevier every Tuesday afternoon at 3.
What would you do if Tom Brady hired you?
I think what he should be doing is talking about, we're still denying we did anything wrong, but just like the Patriot team is saying, we're going to take some punishment here just to move on with our life. The spin I would then take is this isn't about whether I did or not. The question is what's consistent and what's fair.
Marsh Hallberg, every Tuesday afternoon at 3. Powered by Smart Start MN. 105 The Ticket.
Lure the fish in with Berkeley Flicker Shads from Mills Fleet Farm. Get a 3-pack on sale, $9.99. Nothing says summer like cargo shorts. Choose from 2 styles and a variety of colors. Select men's cargos are only $12.99. Keep your pooch healthy by feeding Purina Prime Cuts or come and get it dog food. Just $18.99 a bag. And hit the road on BF Goodrich Advantage passenger tires. Buy 4, get a $50 MasterCard reward card at Mills Fleet Farm.
Smokes! That's the 4th straight kill shot.
I've been getting in some practice.
Is that a new rifle, too?
Yep, traded for it. Make that 5.
Lakes Trading Company. Buy, sell, trade, and receive expert firearms training. Permit to carry classes are also available at the indoor range. LakesTradingCo.com.
If you love the outdoors, then you probably have a truck that you love too. Custom Truck Accessories can help protect your truck from the rigors of outdoor activities. They have custom seat covers and floor mats to protect against the mud and dirt from the field. Toppers and tonneau covers to protect your gear. If you're a truck guy, you'll appreciate the knowledge and experience of the Custom Truck Accessories crew. Visit CustomTruckAccess.com or stop by their store to see what a difference being family-owned can make for you.
We at Dan's Southside Marine would like to redefine the term man's best friend to mean his boat. Now, before you get all tweaky, let's talk this through. Although your dog is fun, dependable, and great to take fishing, so is an Alumacraft Navigator 165 CS. And while your dog may retrieve ducks with lightning speed, he'd have to be just a tick faster to pull you up for a slalom run like the Stingray 200 Bow Rider. And sure, your furry friend obeys your every command with heartbreaking enthusiasm, but think of the enthusiasm you'll feel watching the receptionist from the gym sunbathe on your Premier Pontoon Escapade 235. And finally, your boat will never drink too much lake water and throw up in your boat. To learn more about the best boats and motors in the Twin Cities or to complain about the dog thing, visit Dan's Southside Marine.
You'll not find a bigger inventory of Premier Pontoons and Alumacraft boats anywhere in the Twin Cities. Now's the time to buy. Any boat you see online is available for sale at Dan's Southside Marine.
Now back to Ticket Outdoors, only on Sports Radio 105, The Ticket.
Right?
Welcome back to Ticket Outdoors. 6 o'clock Sunday mornings, we rerun it. Podcast available on 105theticket.com. Obviously streaming, but you would know that if you're doing it right now. All right, Boomer, it's true. Our producer, Mark Lukey, just wandered on out of here. That must mean that we have our guest on the line as I punch the buttons. JK, Jim Kelkafen, welcome to Ticket Outdoors.
Hey, good being with you this evening. What a great night in Minnesota.
Isn't it just? Oh, man, it's one of those nights, you know, if you do a radio program, every once in a while you're going to get stuck in on one of these nights. You just want to be out there with everybody else. But,
go fishing.
But it's the season's still early, and we're talking fishing tonight, and we're talking Minnesota Teen Challenge. We got your buddy Pete Hine in here, JK. Boomer's with us as well. The Minnesota Teen Challenge coming up this weekend. How many years now?
This 7th. This will be year number 7.
Yeah, and the numbers are growing that you're bringing in. I heard something like about 60,000 the first year, and now you're trying to raise $1 billion.
It could happen.
Always big numbers are good, and the goal is to hit 250,000 this year. We've got a lot of teams working hard to raise money for a really good cause. And of course, the cause is Minnesota Adult and Teen Challenge. For those who are not familiar with it, it's something that. Just a second.
I know. Yeah, you got the phone. That's quite all right. Yeah, because give us before we talk about the Teen Challenge this weekend. Talk about Minnesota Teen Challenge.
Really pleased to do that. Ever since the first tournament, I started working part-time for Teen Challenge as the fundraiser for the Brainerd campus, and I didn't know a whole lot about it other than I'd heard, from the guys and the people, and that it was a drug and alcohol rehabilitation program. And I didn't have a whole lot of experience in that community or that business model. And then I started talking to the people individually because I have like an outdoor mentorship program built into what I do, and I take the guys fishing and hiking. In fact, every January 1st, I take them on a winter hike through the woods, and everybody, I take 5 or 6 guys, and we go and look around for deer tracks and bunnies and stuff, and they say that's the first time they've ever done anything on New Year's Day morning.
Wow.
So, we laugh at that, but that's been their life, and alcohol and drugs are prevalent in society.
Yeah.
And when like I was, we put up the tent for the fishing challenge today, and the guy who rode with me and was one of the helpers is 23 years old. He used to fish. His brother and dad have a big boat, and a really good boat, electronics, the whole works. But when he was about 18, he really went off the deep end on marijuana and pills. Those were his drugs of choice.
Mm-hmm.
And for 5 years, he didn't do any fishing. I said, well, you didn't do any and you like to do it? He says, yeah. I said, so what are you doing now? He says, I'm going to fish with my brother in the fishing challenge, So he's getting his life back, and he's getting his priorities straight. And that's the big thing about Teen Challenge and addictions and overcoming addictions. Doesn't happen overnight. The typical long-term residential treatment program is 13 months. That's a big investment for anybody to make.
Yeah, it is.
But you have to realize, here's a guy 23, he'll be 24 when he gets out. He's got 50, 60 more years of his life that can be drug and alcohol free. and he could accomplish a whole lot more in that state than he can, being dependent on drugs and chemicals.
JK, I know I'm putting you on the spot here, but do you think it's there's more of an incentive, or it's somehow, I don't know if I want to use the word easier, to pull kids away from drug addictions when you involve the outdoors?
Oh, there's no doubt about it. And I think many do not even get involved in drugs because they've got something else that's much more enjoyable, and it's something they can do, something they learn to do, something they feel confident about. If you can put a 12-year-old out in an oak tree on the edge of a swamp for 9 hours during deer season, that person gains a lot of confidence. And then when they start doing things like catching, bass and walleyes and bluegills, and then taking their friends out and showing them at 13 and 14 how to do it, they become really well respected, and they have a sense of worth because they can accomplish something and they can do something, and they're more interested in nature. You see those people reading John Muir, and they see him reading books of people and history of game and fish, and they want to know what Lewis and Clark did and why, and they're interested in rivers and what makes them go up and down. And you just see these people do better in science courses, and you see them, they become writers, and and they become better at writing. And I mentor, just an example, the guy was 6th grade. He'd sort of like to fish, but he wouldn't touch a fish unless he had a rubber glove on.
I've got a kid like that.
Yeah. So I took him fishing, and I didn't have him handle any fish, but I was letting him use a lightweight rod, and he was catching some big cats below a dam here in Brainerd. He was catching a few pike, and the next year he was catching some bass. The next year he was catching. Finally, he caught some really nice northerns, and he started touching them. He started handling them. He was throwing rock bass at the wall, but you didn't hear that out there.
No.
He did turn into a real angler.
Peter doesn't listen to the show.
For Christmas, he got a casting rod and reel.
Oh boy!
And he's become really adept at a casting rod and reel, and he's 14 right now. And he's the type of guy who would take to Canada for a week, and he'd be just as capable in the boat as most adults, I think.
Wow. Hey, JK, it's Boomer. I can't wait to see you on Friday, buddy, and do some fishing on Saturday. One of the things that I just want to properly introduce JK, if you recognize his voice, he's been a pioneer in the fishing industry. He's a Hall of Famer across the board. Many organizations.
2007, he made the Hall of Fame.
Yep. You've probably seen him in some In-Fish and all kinds of videos. JK, when you got involved with this, one of the things that touched me a couple of years ago was at the landing when actually some Minnesota Teen Challenge graduates came up to me after, and of course we're in our sponsor gear, and asked what we were doing, and I said, hey, we're here to raise money for the Minnesota Teen Fishing Challenge, and they shook my hand and they said, Boomer, I just want to thank you because we were graduates of that program. And
wow.
And you start to welt up a little bit, and you're like, holy, you get the shakes. But JK, with everything you've done professionally in the walleye circuit and the media and personality circuit, this is a big deal, this fishing tournament. JK, walk our listeners through what we do on Friday, and we've got about 5 minutes, and then walk them through what the actual tournament is, right? Because you see all the things on TV with the professional circuits, and guys, Pete, you got to jump in here. It's just like it. I mean, the stage,
it's a great tournament.
The boats, the media, it's amazing. JK, give our listeners a breath of what that is like.
Well, I really appreciate that. We have a get-together on Friday night. We register the guys. We collect the funds they've raised from family and friends and businesses and associates, and even some of their hard-earned money, and they pour that all in, and it's just registered to the team, so it's credited to them. And, of course, every dollar is 100% tax deductible for those who want to make a donation to Boomer's team because he's fishing this weekend. So we have a fun time. We get together, Al Linder is our host. He says a few things. Steve Panaz is our honorary tournament director. He'll have a few words. We are going to give away, courtesy of Flatline Outdoors and Pete Hine, 5 Matthews bows to the youngsters.
Yeah.
And we might, I know Pete said there in listening in and in studio, and we are going to also have a $200, basically call it a ticket for some youngster to learn how to wakeboard. So, I mean, it's still outdoors and it's still water. But, but you know, you want to get kids involved in these sports. So anyway, we do a lot of things, have a nice meal. The Teen Challenge Choir from Brainerd will sing some songs and give a few testimonies. And we're going to have one really special one that's going to touch your heart by, let me just share that with you guys. We had the Aquaview Early Bird drawing for people that were registered by a certain period in April. So I did the drawing so I could make the announcements and hand out the awards. One of the guys who won the award, Jesse, is in the program in Teen Challenge. He's a client. So Jesse, I called him up to my office and I said, hey, here's what you win as an Aquaview. And his mouth just came wide open and his eyes wide. I mean, you just can't believe it. He was just like in awe. And I said, Jesse, what? Well, you won this. I said, you know, what's wrong? He said the last thing he stole of his dad's was an Aquaview underwater viewing system.
Wow.
And here, God's giving him one back. You know, basically is how it worked. Yeah. I had no idea this was happening. So he's going to share that story with us at the rules meeting. And I hear so many stories like that that make it so amazing.
What story,
But the tournament, I know we're running out of time. The tournament is Fish Gull Lake here by Brainerd for whatever you want to fish for. So if you're a bass head, you can go chase bass, or you can chase panfish, or you can chase pike, or you can chase walleyes, or all of them. You know, and it's such low bag limits that if somebody's successful at catching 3 bass, that's the limit, then you could go and try to catch a northern. Then you can register fish in all 4 divisions. Or some people have fun and they try for one of each, and they enter the mixed bag division.
Well, how many boats, JK, are launching? And talk to our listeners about the weigh-in.
Okay, we have the weigh-in is right on Craigens Beach, Craigens Resort in Steamboat Bay and Gull, South End.
Yep.
You get there, you turn on 77 right off 371 and follow the signs, park and have fun at the weigh-in. We've got a 40 by 80 tent. And it's going to be a great day Saturday. It's going to be nice and cool and sunny. It's a perfect day. But we have the weigh-in stage. Starts at 1. Most people start coming in about 2. They have to be in at 3, so the weigh-in goes from about 2 to 4. Then we have an open-air concert, and then we give out the awards. And there are some great, great prizes for the contestants. The top 10 teams in each division, again, bass, walleye, pike, panfish, or mixed bag, win some really nice prizes so that each prize package consists of 2 prizes worth more than $50 each, so that everybody gets their entry fee back in it. So it's 50 teams. You only can win once. 50 teams out of the 100, and there's about 15 entered or signed up right now, are going to win. So 1 out of 2 teams catch fish, going to do very well. And of course, we mentioned Al and Ron Linder. Mr. Walleye, Gary Roach, is fishing.
Yeah.
And Ron Shera from down there and Steve Carney are fishing. And it's just amazing. Eric Olson, Walleye Nut, is fishing. And so are a lot of people. But more than importantly, so are a lot of young folks. And they're getting an experience like never before where they're not only fishing, but they're learning from some of these other people on the water, and we share all that information. So if there's anybody who wants to learn a little bit about what's going on in a typical northern Minnesota lake, come to the beach. It's free. Sit under the tent and soak up the fun and the congeniality that goes along with a fishing event.
Hey, Jim, for all that you and Pete and everybody else does with Teen Challenge, it really is amazing. You touch so many hearts, you help so many people, but it has to bother you, I think, that you're just touching the surface. There's so much out there that you can't control it.
Well, you're right, and and we're in one respect we're trying to educate as many people as we can I'm working with Al and Ron in a little project called Target Walleye. People can learn all about there is to know about walleye fishing electronically. Go to targetwalleye.com. Free subscriptions, get a couple emails a week. So we keep out there educating as best we can, as long as we can, and we just want more people to learn more about fishing so they'll enjoy it even more.
There you go.
That's sort of the goal that we have in life here in teaching, and we have fun doing it.
Well, I tell you what, JK, I can't wait to get out there. And for our listeners out there right now, it's Boomer. I got a personal challenge for everyone out there. Mm-hmm. I think Mark has shared the link to donate to our team. I'm going to donate personally and match funds. Whoever donates right now, I'll shed $500 out of my pocket and match those funds for our listeners. So go to facebook.com/The Ticket Outdoors, and if you start donating money to Mark and I right now, I'll match that up to $500. So we
really?
Can,
that's awesome.
I just gave you $1.
All right. Yeah. I'll go ahead and kick in another. Well, I think we'll figure something out.
We'll
but that's very generous of you, Boom.
You bet.
Guys, unfortunately, we're running out of time. When you got a Hall of Famer like JK on, you want to spend a little time talking fishing, so we might have to coax you back. But let's hope that the weather holds out for you guys so that you can fully realize this great event, Minnesota Teen Challenge, and reach that $250,000 goal. And for those listeners of ours that are just kind of getting turned on to what's happening this weekend, there's going to be an 8th. There's no doubt about that. So you can think about getting a team together for next year. JK, we can't thank you enough for taking some time with Ticket Outdoors tonight.
Good. Thanks a lot, guys. We'll see you Friday. Looking forward
to it. See you, JK.
See you, buddy.
Hope it all runs real smooth up there. All right, guys, we got to move along here, but that's pretty generous of you, Boom. We'll see if we can get you to that get that $500 fully out of your pocket. Adam Griffith plays second in Denny's Super 30. Here's my Gear Pro staffer, Dan Southside. He works down there as well. He's our guest up next on Ticket Outdoors.
Passionate sports talk.
If you were expecting much more than a defensive grind in a Mayweather fight, you were probably barking up the wrong tree. There's something that still tickles our imagination when it comes to boxing.
On your sports station, 105 The Ticket.
Boomer here from The Ticket Outdoors. Well, we made it through another long, cold winter in Minnesota. And guess what that means? It's time to hit the open water, baby. And I'm pumped to get back into the Alumacraft T-Pro 195 and get her wet. And I want to remind our listeners, now is a great time to check out the new lineup of Alumacraft boats. I love Alumacraft because they're made right here in Minnesota, and they're simply the best aluminum boat on the water. To learn more about Alumacraft and to find a dealer near you, go to alumacraft.com.
Hey, you know what time it is? It's springtime, and it's time to get to Mills Fleet Farm so you can give your yard a cut and a trim, give the garden a makeover, and turn the earth upside down. Plant, fertilize, weed, and feed. Build a wall, a fence, or how about a patio? Then, time to grill and chill. Yep, it's springtime, and it's time to get to Mills Fleet Farm for all your lawn, garden, and outdoor living supplies.
Now back to Ticket Outdoors, only on Sports Radio 105, The Ticket.
We've talked about it on the show many, many times. It never stops for the wonderful words from our sponsors, messages rather from our sponsors. We just keep doing the show here behind the scenes. We're just talking about JK and his contribution. Just listening to him sounds great. Minnesota Teen Challenge. So thanks again, Jim, for joining us. Ticket Outdoors. We move along as we're always running late. Because we're having a good show.
That's how we roll.
That's how we roll. Adam Griffith, here's my Gear Pro staffer. He works down there at Dan Southside in Bloomington and plays second in Denny's Super 30. Adam, welcome to Ticket Outdoors.
How's it going, guys?
Pretty good, man. Sorry we're running a little bit late on you. We're going to get some time here with you, but, we've had JK on. Jim Earhart, did you hear about this guy that got the 100-pound sturgeon on the 10-pound test line?
I did not. That sounds like a ride, though.
Yeah, listen. Check out the podcast, pal. It's a hell of a story.
Yeah, it sounds like you spent about an hour and a half getting this thing up on the shore. They finally had to beach the boat, and he pulled it onto shore.
And Adam, what he caught it with was a 10-pound test line with a Mr. Twister and a quarter ounce jig. Mr. Twister.
Jig,
yeah, Mr. Twister.
Pretty impressive fight.
Let's talk about Adam.
Hey, Adam, we'd like to call him the fish whisperer because he's got the sense to know where they're at. Adam, where the hell are you at right now?
We are on Minnetonka right now. Actually thought we'd try a new pattern tonight, and it's working out pretty good. We got a couple fish over 4 pounds and a couple 3-pounders, so it looks like the new pattern might be something we can add to the repertoire for Saturday. So.
Well, I tell you what, for our listeners out there, as you know, I love to go chase walleyes in the Alumacraft. That's something I have a real passion for.
Yeah, you mentioned that.
Right? I like to share some pictures, and I like to give all the bass heads a little crap about a hot dog and a bobber. But no, it's a big sport, and I understand that, and I respect the anglers. And Adam and Jared, our professional bass team for Here's My Gear, and those guys are making a run at it this year. And Griff, as I understand it, I fully don't get it, but the Denny's Super 30 on Lake Minnetonka, talk to our listeners why that's such a big deal.
It's been around since 1989, and it's always drawn, the top anglers in the state. Denny runs a real good program, so I think people just do it, and it's just, he's kept it the same for, 30-some years. So,
how many boats, Adam?
There's 50. There was actually a few over 50 this year, but usually it's 50.
And you guys took second.
Yes, sir.
Good for you, man. Good for you.
So talk to us a little bit about what the launch was like. So our listeners who don't understand what a bass tournament is like here in Minnesota on the Denny's Super 30, walk us through what the launch is like and then what you and Jared did to find the fish.
Okay, well, what they do is they put everybody's name in a hat, and they draw out your name. And as you draw them out, they give you a number. So it's 1 through 50 if there's 50 boats. Number 1 gets to ease off first. So at 6:30, they'll hold up a 1. That team takes off, honks their horn, takes off. Then they'll, 30 seconds later, they'll hold up a 2, and so forth. And then to find the fish, we just basically pre-fished and figured out what stage the fish were in, and they're actually in. We originally thought they were in pre-spawn starting out, and found out that they were in post-spawn. And so we had to flip our techniques quite a bit. And we actually went to light line and fish finesse techniques while everybody else was fishing heavy, and it worked out for us.
So, Adam, let's take a stop there, because one of the things I wanted to talk about in the Lake Report is some of the fundamentals of fishing. And I really think I've had a lot of great mentors and still learn a lot every day. And I try to break it down to 4 buckets. I try to break it down to water, structure, wind, and presentation. And when we're talking about water, it's all about temp and are the fish spawning or what they're doing. Explain to our listeners what the spawn means pre and post, and how did you know that the fish were out of spawning?
Well, when your water temperatures start to reach 60, you'll have the bass move from the main lake structure, and they'll start moving into back bays, coves, areas where they're going to spawn. The males will come in first, the females will set up and then come in after. And then what we did, what told us that they were in pre-spawn or post-spawn is when we caught them, we started catching every fish was really beat up, which means that when they were already on the beds, and the males were beating up the females to get them to drop the eggs. And so their tails get beat up, their bodies get beat up. So we just put 2 and 2 together and started fishing where these fish would set up after they spawned, before they move back out to the main lake structure.
I've been fishing bass my whole life, and this is what a rookie I am. But coming at it from a guy that's not a pro or one of you guys that live, eat, and breathe it, you can really tell if the bass is beat up. They're just kind of, I mean, like you said, like just some gashes or just some scales battered around.
It'll actually look like bite marks on the side of their body. There'll be like little scars, or scales will be missing in certain spots. Their tails will be noticeably beat up because they clear away the beds to get it down to the sand.
I'm proud of myself for keeping my mouth shut on this one.
Yeah.
All right, so you notice that these fish are in post-spawn. They're beat up. You were in the shallows and caught them. So then what did you do?
Well, we tried a lot of techniques, and what we were seeing is a lot of the anglers were throwing really heavy gear, big jigs, braided line, and what we did is we actually went to spinning rods with mono and started fishing, smaller finesse presentations, things like drop shot and things of that nature.
And then what happened?
We caught fish.
So when you've got a post-spawn fish, you want to go lighter line, lighter presentation?
Well, a lot of times those fish are, they're really tired after, their spawn, and they don't really want to work that hard to get their first couple meals.
Yeah.
And if you can drop a presentation that just sits there and falls in their face or just sits there and makes an easy thing where they can open their mouth and they don't even have to move to do anything.
I'm the same way.
So, Adam, what were you thinking, when you get out there on the water and you're in a tournament or you're in let's say you're in a photo shoot or something, you're trying to get some fish in the boat to get your job done, and I understand for a tournament, it's about getting fish in there so you can start to call them. When did you and Jared kind of look at each other and be like, bro, we might have a shot at placing in this deal?
I would say around 1:30 when we called our last fish. Our smallest fish was now 2 pounds, 13 ounces. We kind of knew that we probably had 25 pounds or so, and
that's a good day.
Yeah. We were gonna do well, we thought.
Good for you.
So you got your 25 pounds of fish, and at what time did you have to bring the trolling motor down and start to head into the landing and do the weigh-in?
We had to be in by 2:45. So what you do is you just kind of fish your way back there the last hour and start hitting structure that's nearby, and then you just motor over there with 5 minutes left, and go get your bag, bring your fish up, and they have the first 25 weigh first at 2:45, and then at 3 they have the second 25 to keep it from getting all too busy.
And were you guys in the first round of 25 or in the second round?
We were in the first. I believe we weighed 5th, and we led the tournament all the way until the last team weighed in, and they outed us by 3 ounces.
3 ounces.
Oh, man. And so, Adam, I think this is a great story for you and Jared, because you guys were fishing with a lot of names that we've had on the show, and you guys placed pretty well, huh?
Yeah, it felt great. It was definitely a confidence boost, to work at it this hard and finally it to pay off. And it all came together. Yeah, we did dump 2 fish that really would have put the icing on the cake where nobody would have been able to touch us. But hey, that's fishing.
You live and you learn.
You kind of expect a couple losses.
No, I was going to ask you that question, but saying you dumped a couple of fish means you lost a couple of big ones that if you would have brought those 2 in, you would have been in first place.
Correct. Yep.
Who screwed up, you or Jared?
We actually both lost one.
Oh, all right.
That helps out when it's not just one person.
Right, you can share it.
Oh, geez. So, Adam, as we kind of wrap this up, you guys got in there, you took second place, then what happened to you then, and how'd you celebrate?
Well, I actually went to the bar and had a drink and had a nice meal, and I said, I'm feeling lucky today. Let's pull some pull tabs.
Yeah.
Come out $200 richer after.
I'm going to hang up on this guy.
So
Jesus.
Where do you go from here, Adam? What's the next big tournament coming up?
The Minnetonka Classic. That is this weekend. It's going to be probably over 100 boats. First prize is $10,000. We're probably gonna do the same pattern plus the pattern that we added tonight. Which is we caught some really nice fish tonight. We didn't catch a lot of them, but you basically just try to get a few here and there and put it all together, and if we can catch these, we're going to do very well.
Be proud of yourself, young man. By the way, this is Strewman here. You may not remember, but myself and my buddy Wade Ryan bought you. We own you in November of next year. We went to the Lions Club, Wildwood Lions Club silent auction, and we outbid everybody. And you are taking us ice fishing next early ice season. You got that?
I'm looking forward to it.
You got it. I want to catch one of those 15-inch crappies. You're always bragging about.
Hey, I'm gonna get you on one.
All right, buddy.
Hey, Adam, let's keep you on for the lake report when I talk through it. Are we going to hit a break first up?
Yeah, guys, this is just a couple of minutes long. Let's hang out when we come back. Boom's got the lake report with his special guest, Adam Griffith.
From the locker room to your radio, tune in the wake-up call from the writers of Cold Omaha every Sunday morning at 8.
Mike Zimmer, who's trying to build a monster.
I think this team is really designed to be an elite defense that can be productive offensively. Bring in good defensive players, get Zimmer what he needs, solidify the defense, make sure that you're not going to get routed in any game.
Zimmer is building a team that can easily win a game if Bridgewater is able to put up 21 points.
The wake-up call with Cold Omaha on Minnesota's Sports Radio 105 The Ticket.
Lure the fish in with Berkeley Flicker Shads from Mills Fleet Farm. Get a 3-pack on sale, $9.99. Nothing says summer like cargo shorts. Choose from 2 styles and a variety of colors. Select men's cargos are only $12.99. Keep your pooch healthy by feeding Purina Prime Cuts or Come and Get It dog food. Just $18.99 a bag. And hit the road on BF Goodrich Advantage passenger tires. Buy 4, get a $50 MasterCard reward card at Mills Fleet Farm.
At most boat stores, what you see is what you get, which might sound good, but what you see may not be what you want. See, many big box boat stores get their boats pre-rigged with equipment you may not want in places you may not want it. You wouldn't let someone pick out your wife or your kids, and they're almost as important as your boat. So come to Dan's Southside Marine, and we'll customize your boat to you. Say you're a lefty. You might want your depth finder here instead of there. Or if you're freakishly tall, you might want things at a special angle. Maybe you're a Virgo and you want everything in alphabetical order. We let you choose, even if we think it's weird. Because no matter where you choose to put things, at Dan's you're choosing the best. Motors by Suzuki, Yamaha, and Honda. Brands like Alumacraft boats and Premier pontoons. If you want what you see, you know where to get it. But if you want what you want, come to Dan's Southside Marine.
You'll not find a bigger inventory of Premier pontoons and Alumacraft boats anywhere in the Twin Cities. Any boat you see online is available for sale at Dan's Southside Marine.
Now back to Ticket Outdoors, only on Sports Radio 105, The Ticket.
All right, welcome back, boys and girls. Adam, are you there? Did you stick with us?
Oh, all right.
They did stick around. I wasn't sure if you stuck around or not. Adam Griffith just told us the story how he and his teammate, what was it, Jared
LaFrance
snagged the second place in the Denny Super 30 on just the tail end of the weigh-in. The last
Came in
one got
second
him.
place by 3 ounces. But that's a hell of a story. Ask the same question you asked off the air when he couldn't hear you, Zepp, about the weigh-in.
Oh, the weigh-in. So they, you talked about the first 25 and the second 25. I know this was a one-day tourney, but when you said you lost on the last weigh-in, do they do that, the bigger catches? Because I haven't been out to a one-day tourney before. Do they tend to weigh them last?
Yeah, a lot of teams will do that. If they think they got a big bag,
Right.
They'll kind of sandbag till the end and then come out with their bag.
Well, the
and,
crowd's like that, too.
Yeah.
It's kind of cool.
Right.
You'll watch that. You'll see that in bass tourneys on TV on the Bassmasters and stuff. All right, Adam, we're turning over to Boomer about this time, the Lake Report. Boom, guys, take it away.
Yeah, you know, one of the things that I've learned in this journey is sometimes we seem to overcomplicate things and second guess myself to death, and I've been there so many times. But as I've learned, you know, try to just keep it simple and go with your gut. And Adam, I'm going to have you pipe in here too, but I really try to look at 4 things when I'm looking at a new lake. Like we got Gull coming up, and I'm going to look at the water, the structure, the wind, and the presentation. And when I'm looking at the water, what I mean to that is basically 2 areas. The water temp, because Zepp, you said, you know, I'm on spring and I'm looking to chase these crappies, and the first thing I asked was the water surface temp, because that's going to dictate the pattern of the fish. Kind of like when we're turkey hunting, you know, daylight will trigger if they're in breeding season or whatnot, and what those toms are going to do. That's going to be the same thing for fish. So something for our listeners to do, if you get a minute, is just Google spawning temps for fish species. And what that's going to do is it's going to tell you what temp a water surface is going to be for walleyes when they're in the breeding season, crappies and pike and bass, because it's all different. Because walleye guys, we all get our kicks early part of the season because walleye start this pre-spawn when it's in about 45 degrees, and then they'll get into full spawn in about 45 to 50 and then to the mid 50s, and that's when you know to go pound the shallows. Now with largemouth bass, you get into the 60s, crappies get into the 60s. I guess the point of that being is look at the water surface temp, because that's going to dictate where the fish are at that body of water. And then clarity. A lot of folks, this is a debate among fishing men and women, is, well, when you're in stained water, you need to use bright colored jigs. When you're in clear water, you need to do truer colors to the forage base. Guys, that is a debatable subject we could have for hours. The one thing that I keep in mind when I'm about water clarity, if you have really good water clarity, and I'm going to say over 1.5 to 2 feet, that's when I'm going to make sure that I'm jigging, or the presentation of bait that I'm using is a little further away from the boat. We talk about Mille Lacs, Pete, and how clear that water is because of the zebra mussels. People are going to use a Lindy rig now sometimes that are 2 to 3 feet long versus your 12 inches because those walleyes are going to be a little spooky. So when we were on Traverse, Mark and I, and we were in really clear water, we had a lot of luck when we were pitching into the shallow areas that were further away from the boat. Adam, would you agree with that?
Yeah, it's definitely in that clear water. You're gonna have to definitely lengthen things, and start using mono and fluorocarbon instead of your braided lines. And typically when it's sunny out, you want to do more they say brighter colors on a bright day, but, and then more natural colors when it's darker, but, that's
a horse apiece. And then we're going to shift.
I mean, you can prove that wrong on any other, certain days where that has nothing to do with it. You're catching them with it bright yellow on a rainy day,
Now, when we go to Gull, one of the things that Mark and I are going to be talking about is we're going to look at the way the wind was blowing. When we got on that really awesome bite on Travis towards the end, Mark, and then when we got on it towards Devil's Lake, we're looking for where the wind is blowing the forage base. And so if we're going to work a piece of structure, so either weed lines, if you see those pencil reeds sticking up through the water, or you're looking for a sunken island that's going to come up to a certain point, I'm going to work the side that the wind is blowing into. Now, that might be a son of a gun to work against with your trolling motor with the wind, but if you can work against the wind-blown area, that's where your natural shrimp and forage base are going to be. Can't you just
anchor and cast instead of...
You can anchor and cast, but what I like to do, Stu, is you guys know me, I don't have any patience.
Keep moving.
I'm going to start a little deeper. So let's say on Devils, if we thought those fish were in 5 feet of water, I'm going to start at about 15 feet or depending on the drop-off, get all my rigs ready so as the boat just starts to drift in, I can start to target different areas. So if I get a hit at 10 feet, I'm going to back the boat off and kind of get an idea of where water temp and the water surface depth, where I was at. So the boat is a little further away. Now, when you talk about structure with the wind, things that I love to look for are weed lines, especially this time of year for our listeners. The weeds and the algae bloom hasn't quite kicked in. You get those algae blooms on these lakes when the nitrogen runs off from the egg and you get stuff that's natural to the water. Well, it hasn't been warm enough, so those weed lines that are just starting to pop up, if I start to see those when I was like bass fishing the other day, I want to back off them a little bit before you start to approach them. Another trick that's really great for walleyes this time of year is if trying to find, Adam, and let's talk about this, transitions between rock and sand. Sometimes you're not going to pick that up on your graph or your GPS unit, whatever you like to use, but what you can do is you can feel it. We always talk about having tension on the line, and when you're jigging it on the bottom, whatever you're using, you can feel kind of the bumps of the rocks. Right. And when I'm doing that, and all of a sudden I feel it kind of get muddy or a softer bottom, I'll hit the waypoint right away on my graph because that tells me that there's some type of presentation point, and then I'll make a point to try to do an S pattern with the boat all along that edge line between the rocks and the sand because usually you're going to have some good luck.
You getting all this, Drew?
You dropping this down on me, brother?
I don't give you enough credit, man.
This is why you podcast this show, so you can go back and... Now, what was that middle thing again?
This is really, really interesting.
So, again, on the structure, you're going to go to the wind-blown side of the structure. Depending on your water clarity is going to be the depth of your leader between your hook and your weight. And the last thing is the drop-offs. You know, us walleye guys, we love big drop-offs, Pete, right? We think they're going to be right on the bottom. So let's say you're working a piece of structure where there's a rock and it goes from 15 feet down to 25 feet. Don't just go to the deepest part right away. Walleyes have great eyesight, so they're not a big fan of the sun. So they're probably going to be in a deeper spot later in the day when that sun is shining. But depending on what the cloud cover is and what's going on, work that whole drop off. So start at 30 feet to 29 feet to 28 feet to 27 feet. And I had, you know, a great mentor. Corey's been a good one from Vexlar, Steve Bauman, Hall of Famer. And he said, Boomer, you're going to catch more fish the longer you keep your bait in the water because something's going to hit it. So keep that presentation in the water. Start at 30 feet and work it up to the 15 feet. The last thing I want to talk about is your presentation. Sometimes you see these people that, you know, their cadence or how their jig wrap is they're flopping that rod and reel up really fast. Well, guys, if you're using a 7-foot rod and you just lift that up in the water column, you just moved your jig basically 7 feet. Right. And that's something I see that people often miss. So you don't have to use that heavy, aggressive jig. And another little tip before we wrap up this lake report, Zep, is when you have that new presentation on, that new plastic or that leech, we talked about hooking it different ways. What I like to do is right before I get to the spot, something simple and stupid for me, I'll drop it down about a foot next to me in the water next to the boat, and I'll just start jigging it to see what the presentation is like on that plastic or that live bait. And then when I find one that looks real and kind of fishy, that's the type of cadence I'll use when I'm chasing those fish.
I'm finding you very attractive right now.
Well,
sounds like
you're not looking bad yourself, brother.
There's a breeze in over here. Want to thank Pete Hine and Adam Griffith for that lake report. That was great, you guys.
And Katie and Kaylin down in Elysian, those 2 9-year-old girls of Jared. Love you girls. Thanks for the picks and all the fishing tips you gave Dad and Adam.
All of our guests today. Adam, we'll let you get back to work. I know you want to go fishing, man. And good luck this weekend.
All right. Thank you, guys. Have a good night.
I appreciate it.
See you, Griff.
Pete Hine, it's teamflatlineoutdoors.com. Good luck this weekend. Have a lot of fun up there.
Thanks for having
moving
me.
forward with the operation.
We'll see you on the water, boom.
Thanks, buddy.
Load up the lumber at Mills Fleet Farm. ProWood treated lumber, preferred by contractors, is on sale. Rejuvenate and protect your driveway with Jet Coat Premium Driveway Filler and Sealer. $14.99 a bale. Get power and speed with the DeWalt 18-volt Bear cordless grease gun. On sale, $118.99. The 3M Tech WorkTunes hearing protector is $29.99. And all Dickies denim is on sale at Mills Fleet Farm.